Thanks for coming through touring, as always.
Oh yes, I appreciate it. I took a nap. I just woke up, so I'll be having more energy as each minute passes. I woke up at like what 9:55, so yeah, I'll be getting better as we go.
All right. Well, we're happy to have you here and rested. Thank you for being here, Eucharist.
How's it going? Good to see you all again.
Yeah. Coming through for another week. You've been around on the channel for a little bit now, and we've definitely been enjoying having you.
Yeah, it's been good to hang out and just listen to the great panels you put together.
Thanks so much. Well, it's a lot of the I get a lot of help with this stuff from my friend Kurt and Spectre. They do a lot of good work for me, so I really appreciate all of them because it's very frustrating putting together panels. It's extremely frustrating. Oh my god. Anyway, finally, last but not least, we have about Jack. Jack, thanks for coming through and looking. I mean, you were looking snug, I think.
Yes. Yeah. I was dressed up a bit earlier today, and then I was just like, I'm just gonna throw this on. I'm gonna be warm. I'm gonna be feeling good, and that's what I did. I thought it, and then I did it.
And I'm so happy that you're like experiencing self-actualization. So, yeah, great. Anyway, so yeah, let's get started. What I guess the big story that's happening now in politics is the stimulus check or stimulus or survival checks, as I think is a more accurate term. So within the Congress, they have managed to come up with a bill that would give $600 to adults, right? And then I guess $300 for the kids or something like that. But anyway, $600 for the adults, all the adults in the United States, citizens anyway, right? And then so it got passed and was ready to go for Trump's approval. Then Trump blew it up, saying that he wouldn't accept anything less than $2,000 for each individual. Now Mitch McConnell is saying F that because you gotta be an oligarch somehow, right? And can't allow the peasants too much fun. And there's a lot of arguing back and forth as to whose fault all of this is, right? The fact that the American people are not being helped right now, one way or the other, don't have the support that they need, and haven't had the support for almost the entire pandemic, really. So I want to know where you all stand on this, right? Like who do you blame? Why do you blame them for the state of affairs, at least the financial state of affairs of the people? So I'll start with you, Eucharist.
Oh, hang on, sorry. Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know. That's the short answer. I mean, it's very, very easy to put a significant amount of the blame on Trump directly, or at least, the administration, Republicans, in terms of pandemic response and things like that have kind of drawn this out to the point where we are still limping through here in December. When some other places seem like they've handled things a lot better leading into the vaccine, like things are not as dire. Great that they have the vaccine, but not like they're still where we're at. So that does suck. I mean, I just am so pessimistic about politics in general because I mean, it seems like where the fighting is really happening is like, what we hear in the news is like, well, how much are we going to have in direct payments? Are we going to have direct payments? But what's really behind all of the bickering right now is like the different parties' goals of what gets put into this bill on top of the direct payments, right? So it seems like for Trump, like this out of the blue, like, oh no, actually I want $2,000 checks for Americans. Oh, and also we need to go through and chop up some of this foreign aid stuff and figure it out. Things that he knew that the Republicans weren't going to flex on. Like it's just like everybody's trying to get their own thing in there, and then the headline is we're trying to get payments to Americans, but the other party's slowing us down. I mean, yeah, it does seem like objectively Republicans are the ones kind of standing in the way of most people getting help. But that's all we feel, right? So like we've already gotten a lot of small business help earlier in the first COVID relief bill. This has some as well. That's not what we really hear about, right? What is on everybody's minds is, am I getting another check in my bank account? So I don't know. It's complicated, and I hate it all. So
yeah. Thank you. So thank you for that. Next, touring. Do you have a bad guy in mind for all this?
Well, we can't blame Trump if for nothing else. He tweets every single day that he wants like his election to be changed or something. So he could have been tweeting every day that he wanted $2,000 a month before they passed like something that they considered to be bipartisan. He could have been trying to like influence it beforehand. I mean, additionally, I think if you made $75,000 a year in 2019, but then you got laid off this year, you wouldn't qualify for the $600 stimulus. So like if you were, maybe like a white collar city work, then you weren't going to get it potentially. Our country's unique in how they just want to keep helping corporations, it seems, and not helping smaller people. I don't think that Pelosi is not at fault at all, or the Democrats not being at fault at all, for not trying to push harder, I suppose, or trying to do standalone for just aid. But not many people did a lot of good things. Bernie out there yelling, more of the progressive people in the House of Representatives yelling. I guess even maybe Josh Hawley stumbled across something that might be okay. But I'll stop there.
Okay. Thanks. Next. We'll go to Jack.
So, I mean, I think that the vast majority of this blame has to go on the Republicans, and Trump specifically, because, I mean, like, the Democrats were, I believe they had a bill passed, at least in the House, a long time ago to back up, like, a second stimulus bill, but it just died in the Senate, right? Because Mitch McConnell can kind of control what lives and dies through there. I might be wrong about that. Don't quote me. But that being said, like, we've had an entire year to try and get something done, and people waited until this omnibus bill so that the stimulus could be attached to the omnibus, as well as like all kinds of other things, like making it a felony to fucking stream lives, like DMCA-able stuff. There's all kinds of wild stuff in that omnibus package, and I think that kind of like what you, Chris, was saying, like it's unnecessarily, it has unnecessarily been tacked on to this omnibus bill along with everything else. And it's unfortunate that this is the state of politics that we're in. Like, again, Donald Trump could have been out there every day saying we need to do something. Nancy Pelosi could have been out there every day saying we need to do something. And we just didn't really do it. And now we're at a point where, like, whether it's $600 or $2,000, I think it's too little too late at this point. Like, we're on the brink of, like, a homeless crisis, the likes of which we've never seen before, and neither of those payments is going to prevent it from happening at this point. So, I mean, it's a disaster that has been created by our political gridlock, and I think I would probably put most of the blame on Mitch McConnell, because Mitch McConnell has had a death hold on the Senate for like almost a decade, and I think that that's really starting to drown us all.
Okay. Hey, Wild Man. Can you do me a favor? Mute your whereby.
Mute the whereby.
Yeah.
Done.
Thank you. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Well, thank you for being here. Really do appreciate you coming through.
Oh yeah.
We were.
Thank you for having me. What's up, Touring?
Hello. Good evening. How are
Fucking real player.
So we were discussing
Touring news. Touring news. What an absolute legend. I haven't talked to you in way too long.
It has been a while. Yeah, as you were, Prime. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No, don't sweat it. When we were talking about the COVID response in terms of the stimulus checks, right? That still haven't arrived. That at first was going to be 600. Well, at first it was going to be 1,200, and then the Republicans, quote unquote, negotiated it down to.
Of course, I'm aware.
Yeah,
I'm aware of the things.
Yeah. I just wanted. Yeah, okay, sure.
Unfortunately, people. The only government.
Go ahead.
What's up, Prime?
I was just going to ask you, who do you blame for all this? But go ahead.
Who do you blame?
Yeah.
Well, I have bad news for the American people. Okay, in China, you had government officials and volunteers running COVID tests, delivering groceries to people's food. Unfortunately, the only response for you Americans, the only government response you're going to get is a sheriff knocking at your door when it's time to get evicted. Sorry, what do you think your government does? Okay, this is the problem I have with right-wing lunatic imbeciles, is that they say everything the government gets its hands on, it just bungles. The government just bungles everything it tries to do. Really? Does government try to raise your standard of living? Does the government try to build hospitals and trains and community centers? No. What does the government do? Okay, because whatever the government does, it's actually quite good at. The government runs the courts. The government funnels people into jails. The government criminalizes simple human behavior like streaming fan dubs on your favorite anime website. And the government is actually quite good at doing all those things. Okay, so who do I blame? You're gonna have to look. You're gonna who they're just operating exactly how you would expect them to operate during a pandemic. There's no bungling. There's no errors. There's no missteps. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to do, which is grease the wheels of capital accumulation, which they're doing wonderfully. Check it out. When your favorite taqueria down the street closes, or when the small family-owned grocery store closes, who's going to gobble up that real estate? Who's going to gobble up that market share? Okay, so no one's bungling. No one's to blame. Both parties are both parties of capital, and they're assisting in that. They're assisting in capital accumulation, and they're assisting in criminalizing every little thing you do, whether it's smoking mango jewel pods or whether it's prioritizing grocery bills over your rent. You're a criminal. You're scum. You're going to jail. Governor Newsom's going to go to Martha's Vineyards and have 50-person private parties, and you are going to have less of a social life than you did in 2019, in 2021. How is that possible? How is it possible that all you people are going to be even lonelier? I'll tell you how it is, because they're going to criminalize you going to see your grandma on Christmas. So sad. It's a sad state of affairs. So who do I blame, Prime? Who do you blame? I missed the roundup. Everyone, short fire answer. Turing News, who do you blame? The devil? Turing News is a Catholic. He blames the devil, don't you?
I don't have an answer.
PrimeCayes, who do you blame?
Oh, I haven't given my answer yet. I'll give it in a longer form.
Oh, I'm in suspense. UKerist, nice to meet you. Who do you blame?
Nice to meet you. Everyone.
Are you from the UK?
No. It's
What's your name?
Eucharist. It's
ukulele.
Yeah.
Eucharist. You're Catholic too?
Not yet.
Not yet. Riverboat, nice to meet you. Who do you blame?
Hello. I blame Capital, and I also blame Mitch McConnell if we're gonna put a face
Capital.
to it.
The disembodied force of capital. I might as well blame the devil. I blame the devil personally myself. If you want the root of all evil, okay, whether you believe the devil is some entity or not, it's probably simpler to go to your boomer ass parents and say, this is because of Satan, as opposed to say, this is because of the peculiar nature of capital. This is because capital seeks to recreate itself. No, I just say it's the devil. That's who I blame, PrimeCayes. Is that an adequate answer? I blame the devil. I'm going to be more comprehensible to people than you're going to be with your answer, PrimeCayes, but I'd love to hear it.
So I was just going to say that there's blame to go absolutely all around. Sure, yes, we can go after Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell is definitely a villain here. He has tried to stop anything approaching. He stopped the Congress looking at anything approaching operational for the past 10 years, right? It is his duty that he's taken up to make sure almost nothing happens, right?
Stuff happens, bro.
Some stuff does happen, right?
Lots of stuff happens.
Things were going to happen within this omnibus bill, right? A lot of corporate giveaways, for instance. That stuff can happen.
That's what the government does.
The moment it came to helping the people out, all of a sudden poverty, right? All of a sudden we got to negotiate down. Not a surprise. This is the usual, right? On the other side, though, we're the Democrats. So this side was Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi, I don't think was ever operating in good faith. The House Democrats put forward a $2.1 trillion stimulus bill, and which was solid as these things go, coming out of liberals, right? But it was solid. And then Trump countered it with a $1.8 trillion dollar bill. Now, the $1.8 trillion dollar, I'm not sure if we ever saw the language in that bill, right? And I'm sure there's all kinds of things like I wouldn't have liked, right? But it was, it'd be difficult to argue that it wasn't a good faith attempt, right? As some sort of negotiation. Nancy Pelosi did not bother at all with that, and she admitted afterwards that it's because she didn't want to give Trump any sort of a win, right, before the election. Absolutely not. But we all knew that as soon as the election happened, she would lose absolutely all leverage, right? Like, what would Trump's motivation be afterwards if he lost, right? If he lost the election, and so. He did lose the election. They did try to get back to the negotiating table with the Republicans. Trump stepped back from all of it, right? Put absolutely no input into this. And the Republicans took advantage of this by negotiating everything down, right? It was like a $900 billion deal, right? In total. And then beyond that, and then at the very last second, Trump steps in saying, no, I demand $2,000. Now, why is Trump doing this? Not sure. Maybe he's actually serious about that 2024 run, possibly. Maybe he just wants to leave office with some sort of a win, something to save his reputation. I mean, like, because this all fell apart under his watch. Maybe that's what he's looking for. I don't know.
Maybe he has a sense of humor, Prime.
Maybe.
Maybe he's delighted by being an imp.
It definitely has things to do with fundraising for Republicans right now, particularly in Georgia. Like, if they can get the line that, we're the party that wants the $2,000, however true or untrue that is.
No, Trump
it helps with
that.
fundraising, and it helps with elections. Trump's already sent out a fundraising email about this. It's in the Wall Street Journal article that Spectre
Trump's never
earlier,
sent out an email in his life, bro.
All right, so Trump's staff, Trump's administration has sent out fundraising emails on this basis, right? Like, the Democrats are trying to keep $2,000 out of your bank account, right? So there's some messaging here, at least, that they get out of it. Whatever.
They didn't go to a war room and sit down with Trump and figure this out, bro. I don't think it's that deep. I think Trump is being the delightful little troll that he is, and just fucking threw a wrench in it for his own vanity purposes. This man wants to be loved, He wants to be. He wants to be in the news. That's his whole. That's part of the reason. That's the reason he ran for president in the first place. He's not an ideological actor. He's not even that interested in his own self-perseverance. If he was, he would have done all these things that you people here are talking about today. He's not a smart man. If he was such a Machiavellian genius, he would have passed the check earlier. You know what I mean? He would have whipped the Republican Party into shape. He couldn't. He could never use his own celebrity for any grander political project besides the bill that was slipped in front of him by his sniveling fucking son-in-law on a given day. You know what I mean? Trump is not moving the capital Jerusalem or whatever, or the embassy of Jerusalem because it's part of some grand white settler colonial project. Trump's doing it because some guy who kisses his ass all day suggested he do it. He is a fucking imbecile. So, and Nancy never figured that out, you know? So it's, these people are not as coherent as we'd like them to be. What do you guys think about that?
Go ahead, Jack.
I was just gonna say, I think most people who interact with Trump have an idea that he's like an absolute buffoon and a moron and like really only capable of some sort of low type of cunning, if you can even call it that. I don't think most people in Washington have that illusion about him. It's just an illusion that gets pushed out by his propagandists. I think that it's largely like the Democrats, Nancy Pelosi, whoever, trying to play some sort of political game with like this like you said, like this troll at the center of it who keeps like knocking over pieces randomly, and Mitch McConnell responding to that, and both sides trying to protect their own interests, but neither side has the best interests of like little people in mind.
Yeah, I'm trapped being worried in like my own realm about something slightly different. And my concern isn't like who to blame on this one, who not to blame on this one. I think that they all deserve blame. Where my concern is at the moment has been in just how much we work harder and longer every day for less and less for money that buys less and less. And I've looked over the past 5 years, the dollar has lost 40% against cost of living, 40% against gold, 35% against housing, and 50% against equities. And it's at one of the lowest points that it's been in recent times as far as like valuation against other currencies. And I'm just thinking that regardless of what people in the United States do right now for work, you're just falling behind against wealthy elite or, you know, kind of like the top few percentiles. And there's no way for people to get themselves off the rat race. So regardless of what little, you know, pittances they're going to be throwing with these stimulus checks, the underlying fundamental problems of like how to earn a dollar in the United States and how to survive in a lot of different locations doesn't really seem to be like adding up. Yet they claim that we're not having inflation, and they claim that, you know, we need to get back to like 2% or so forth. So this is where I've been, you know, stumped in for the past, like, I don't know, a couple of months, trying to figure out how much are we just losing because everything else, college costs are more, healthcare costs are more, food care.
We've lost everything. Everything, they've taken it all from us. And whatever you think is special, you know, whatever you think is going to be a mainstay of of American culture, they'll take that too. They won't stop until you have nothing. And I'm not kidding. Like, that sounds like a hyperbole. Surely, you know, the people in charge are going to make a deal. Surely they're going to see just how low American standards of living have crept. And surely we'll get some great bargain between capital and labor once again. No, they're going to turn this country. They're going to treat this country exactly how they treat all of their colonial projects abroad. Okay? Do you think the American empire and American capital has ever cut a deal with the Haitian people? No. We have no idea how far America can slide into poverty. And many of us have no idea what types of treacherous poverty exist today. You know, in America, what types of horrible diseases, horrible trauma, extreme poverty exist just miles away from affluence. So Turing, they're gonna take everything from you. They're gonna take your wages, your house, your free time, and your culture.
I agree.
They'll take the revolution from you.
I agree that there's a long way to fall for Americans, and that's also a possibility. I think I guess when it comes to like our ability to respond to crises, right? So like as Jack said at the very beginning, we are probably going to look at we're probably going to see an incredible spike in homelessness, right? And we've seen this before. I mean, we've seen what do we call them? Hoovervilles,
yeah.
Hoovervilles, yes, Hoovervilles, in America. That's a thing that happened, right? Where it was just a massive collapse within the housing market, a massive collapse within people's financials, and the government allowed it to happen with terrible policies and steadfastly refused to respond. And we see that this year. An emergency has taken place, right? A proper response could have averted this, right? And as we saw from many other nations, but it just never happened here, never materialized, right? And so, when Biden gets into office, will he take the necessary steps? Will he get out of his own way and help save us, right? No, I think he'll operate within a very narrow confine that he has defined, right, as proper, right? And we can't step out of this, right, for whatever reason, right? I don't think, and I certainly don't think he'll like take steps like ongoing payments, right? Like rather like a one-time payment, sure, maybe that'll happen again, but an ongoing payment, because that'll give people the idea that that's a thing that the government can do for you, right? That's a normal thing that we can do, and especially in times of emergency. Because then people might get into their heads that we can ask for this again. So I think, Joe, nothing's going to fundamentally change Biden. Will not be our salvation here. I feel like there might be dark. I think now I'm channeling my inner Turing. I feel like there might be dark times ahead. And I don't know. Does anyone see
Prime? I got something for you.
Go ahead.
Dark times ahead. You know, in reality, if you look at the course of American history, Hoovervilles were an apparition. Hoovervilles were not an apparition. They slums and poverty and disease and death are the mainstays of American life. If anything's an apparition in the great liberal project, it is the post-war glut enjoyed by select groups of Americans. That sort of golden age of American capitalism, the 3 or so decades following World War II, of which we're all familiar with the conditions that led to it. So I'm not going to reiterate those here. But that period of time is an apparition in American society. The vast majority of American society is one of extreme poverty, whether it's in the West Virginia, where illiteracy rates far surpassed all comparable nations in the Western Hemisphere up until the Great New Deal era, or whether it's all across the South, where terrorist KKK groups carried out mass murder, mass arson, and mass terror against part of America's population. This country has always been a holding cell for prisoners, impoverished serfs, slaves, and all the lowest dredges of society. This has always been a country that's built for the slave owner, for the factory owner, for the capitalist. And we're just simply sliding back into what our normal way of life here in America is. There has been no sustained prosperity in this country for the working people and for the lowest castes of society.
Anyone else? You, Chris?
I'm gonna have to think about that for a little bit. I'm not sure how to respond specifically.
I'll try to I'm just going to bring back up what I said before, and I can't give financial advice to people, but the only thing that I can really maybe encourage people to do at the moment right now is to save and kind of evaluate your luxury bills and maybe see if you can carve out a little bit of that to build a nest egg for yourself. But again, I've just been trying to see how labor is compensated against a basket of goods that it requires to survive. Healthcare, housing, food, internet, and so forth. And small businesses are closing at, I don't even know how many hundreds it is per day, but I think it's up to like 3 or 4 million have closed already. Somebody mentioned small mom and pop stores are going to be closed up, and then they're going to have their commercial real estate bought out by private equity. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done in the United States. However, it's a lot of work that needs public investment, like infrastructure overhauls, energy grid redevelopment, figuring out how to make our education system actually function and work. And I am kind of just encouraging people to step past like the doomer part and just be like, okay, like there are tidal waves coming in like a multitude of different directions. But what can be done is, we need healthcare workers, we need teachers, we need HVAC workers, construction, agricultural work, and so forth. So for me, I'm kind of just of the time now where I want to take next year to learn skills in order to be able to do something useful, that can be productive for some type of sustainable communal system. And the amount of wealth that transferred again to the top 1% this year, I think now has exceeded $1 trillion. I watch a lot of these weird financial people, and there hasn't been a time in the past, I think it's like 40 or 50 years, that you've had to work longer to buy one like quote unquote share in the S&P 500. So we have just the Cantillon class getting beyond anything that we're ever going to be able to reach. And here in Philadelphia, there's not a good job to really do in Philadelphia to afford the cost of living for being here. So yeah, I'm just really trying to encourage people. It's maybe a good time to think about how each of us are going to be deriving our income. We've been so crushed by a lot of the day-to-day pressures of being able to afford a bill right now or so forth that I'm concerned for people on the long time horizon.
Yeah, I think most people in the United States can't consider the long-term horizon. Most people have to figure out that next bill, and this is what's kind of leading us to this precipice, right? We're about to hit the kind of homelessness crisis that dwarfs the Great Depression, and that's kind of been our benchmark, right? We can't even conceive of what worse than Great Depression is kind of what Wildman was talking about earlier. We cannot conceive the levels of poverty that we can actually fall to in this country. And I think that that's going to start happening. And this isn't doomer talk. It doesn't mean we give up. It doesn't mean we stop trying to make things better. But it does mean that we need to reckon with the reality of our situation. And the reality of our situation is that things are very, very bad. And the illusion that things are fine that we get when we watch Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell talking about a $600 stimulus and how somehow that might fix things. No, it's not going to fix anything. What it is political theater to basically make us think it's fine until the bottom falls out from underneath all of us collectively and we find out what's at the bottom.
And I would extend that description that you've just given, Riverboat, to the 5 progressive members in Congress, known as the Squad. In the same way, that is also theater. I'm sorry, it is theater. There is going to be no meaningful labor reform or pro-working class policies coming out of America's federal government. It's not going to happen.
No, not until we have another cycle of elections at the very least, and
no, not even then. Never. They will shut down democracy like they do in other countries before they let you elect another 5 members of that squad, whatever metric you're going by. Of course, the alternative is that the squad just simply become comfortable in their roles as the left wing of imperial America, and then maybe we'll get one or more token progressives in Congress. But for the most part, like I said, they will kill you. They'll drain your blood in the street. They'll kill you. They will destroy you. They'll put all the left in jail before they let you
we already have
end capital's stranglehold on this
coming
economy, just like
for
they
the-
did in
But for the progressives, we already have more coming through, right? So we have Cory Bush, and then it was like Cory Bush and I think 2 or 3 others who've been elected.
Poggers!
Democratic.
At this rate, in 200 years, we'll have a majority.
All right, but hold on. This is a movement building, though, right? Like, I don't know what you expected. Like we're in 2020.
I don't know what you expect.
Next cycle. I wish everyone had won. There was a lot of good. There was one.
You don't know what Prime. Hold on. You don't know what I expect. I'll tell you what I expect right now. That, like I said, nothing will ever come from Washington D.C. for poor people. Never. That's what I expect. So, let me ask you. I don't know what you expect to happen. Can you guys give me a timeline on when the squad's going to take over the center of global empire? Yeah, when's the squad going to overthrow the U.S. military, the FBI, the CIA, all these places that bloodlet over 5-cent raises on some plantation in Nicaragua? Do you know how much, but just the obscene amount of violence that these institutions are capable of over the most meager gains for poor people globally? And we think that in a couple, just in your lifetime, we're going to see incrementally more and more so-called progressive members of Congress, and finally the American people will be risen from their poverty. I think that's so delusional. It drives me crazy.
So I didn't imply 1 second that the squad and their backup would demolish American imperialism, right? All on their lonesome, right? Certainly not. But if you're talking, if we are going to see this demolished and without an invasion by a foreign nation, right? But if it doesn't come down in a fiery crash, right, then it will have to come down through a political revolution, and part of that is getting people inside, right, who can work for our interests. And beyond that, right, it takes outside pressure, right? It takes a movement that currently we don't have. Like currently,
you just said revolution. How can you have a revolution but maintain the Congress? If there's a revolution, that legislative body would be on pikes. You know what I mean? That's what would happen in a revolution. There would be no more Congress. A revolution doesn't mean getting 51 out of 100 Senate seats.
I said political revolution. Yeah, I mean, yes, you can have.
What is a political revolution? That's some Bernie Sanders bullshit. A political revolution is synonymous with what people call revolutions. You can say, electoral, like, we're gonna bring in socialism through electoralism. That's funny because 80% of the socialists I interact with in real life and online, of course, in countries that did democratically elect a socialist government, like Venezuela or Bolivia, these fucking left-wing progressives shit on them, including AOC. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, what support has she ever lent to Bolivia? What support has she ever lent to Venezuela? Like, they do not have no one in Washington, D.C. has a track record of what you're referring to, not even the most left-wing members of Congress.
So right now, I think what the left is in the process of doing is pushing the Overton window. So like the changes you're going for, no one's talking about that, of course, because all that's completely, it's not even just outside of like a political discussion, right? Like, it's just like not in the minds whatsoever of anyone in Washington right now. So if you're talking about like these radical changes, right? Well, part of the process is simply moving the ball forward down the left side of the field. And
says who?
Says that's how politics works. That's how.
No, that's what you've been indoctrinated into believing.
Shift.
That's not how politics works.
Yes, exactly. That's how politics works. We've had a rightward shift for decades within our country, right? And you look at the successive members of our conservative political party, right? They've been getting more and more conservative as time has gone by, right? And then they have introduced more conservative ideas that have at first been completely outside of mainstream, right? Something that we don't discuss here in polite society. But then all of a sudden later on, right? Well, of course, well that's not too bad, right? Yeah, that this kind of makes sense.
Prime.
And then
That's not how
consensus. That's literally how
that
it works. Go ahead.
I mean, many people who make a living off of talking in the media might agree with you that the pen is mightier than the sword. And if we simply say, we want Medicare for all, we're going to get it. Right? We're going to get it. That's just not how it works, Prime. They will not concede anything. They will concede nothing to you because you have no leverage over them. Doesn't matter how many people are on your side. Doesn't matter how many people believe in Medicare for all. Doesn't matter how many people believe in decriminalizing marijuana. It will not happen.
Which is why we have to put pressure on them, right? And that pressure.
What does that mean? You're speaking in pablum. What is pressure?
Let me talk, and I will let you know exactly.
I'm not going to let you get away with these progressive weasel words. What is pressure?
Don't give me fucking weasel words. I'm saying like a labor strike.
That's weasel word. That's progressive bullshit that I'm sick and tired of hearing.
Hold on. How are workers making demands of their government, right? Which is
how demands what? A petition on petition.org?
No, I'm saying like the denying their labor, right? Denying their labor, saying that we demand better conditions, right? And then taking it farther, saying that we stand with workers across the globe, right?
The American people are going to do that. Some of the most pig-headed, selfish, ignorant people
if you're
are going to do that.
You think that no one cares about it? Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, like, if we're on the verge of like a massive homelessness crisis, yeah, I think that we can mobilize a whole lot of people to be really, really angry and exert some political pressure. We're on the verge of an increase of increasing the same. We've already been in a homelessness crisis, and no one gives a fuck. Well,
people hate homeless.
When I say we're going to be in a homelessness crisis, I mean like fucking multiple times what the Great Depression was. We're not in that right now. We will be in like a couple months if things keep going the way they're going, which they likely will. And
well, America's in a much different state than it was in the Great Depression.
Yeah,
a lot more guns, got a lot more control over society. They got microphones in your houses.
Very quickly, I just before you go on, I have to thank someone. Thank you, DB, for that $45 donation. Thank you so much. Merry day after Christmas to you too. Thank you so much for that support. We finally done our December goal. I didn't think that was going to happen at all, but it happened. Thank you so much for your support. All right, so Riverboat Jack and Wild Man.
Yeah, I mean, like, it sounds like you're saying there's no point in even participating in the democratic process at all. So, like, we should be organizing.
Is that a question? Are you asking me to clarify what I believe?
Well, what it seems like you're saying is that bourgeois democracy is pointless, so we should be mobilizing for revolution in Minecraft.
So is that what you're asking?
I'm just chilling. I'm not advocating for anything.
So do you believe that we should be...
I'm just here to...
What do you believe we should be doing?
What do I believe we should be doing? You should go to work and get some money. That's the only thing. Like Turing News said, you should go to work, get some money, learn some skills, take care of yourself, find some friends, find a lover. That's. I mean, what?
And then so slowly
should
sink to death.
Should we be holding up some Revcom signs in the street? Out with the Trump, Pence, fascist regime. I mean, sure. If you want to go to a parade, go to a parade. If you want to go on strike, do it. Absolutely do it.
But then what are you here
advocating more wages.
For? Like,
I'm not here to advocate for anything. Why are you guys taking it upon yourself to advocate? Why did the four of you take it upon yourself to spend tens of hours every week advocating that other people do something?
Maybe because we don't want to see the world to be being a shithole. Maybe we'd like to make the world a better place.
I do too. I wish I had the power, but I'm not so delusional to think that I have the power through conversation to push the Overton window left to bring about revolution, political revolution.
I'll try to restate what I said again, and see if this is going to come off in a better way, because I did mean it to be in an optimistic way. I think it's a good opportunity to try to build relations with communities, with your community members. And through that means of organizing, hopefully that you could have a few people that you could run into, a potential local office or city council or teachers councils or so forth. But I think that if we're going to be getting any kind of victories through electoralism, whether it might be, an eventual public option, if it's going to be an eventual $15 minimum wage, if it's going to be like an eventual small debt cancellation or so forth. I think that there's a lot of work that has to be done both in, kind of like the labor area, in the debt striking area, in community building areas. And this feels where the energy should be put at the moment to me. And like I said, I'm trying to take some time next year to learn some skills to be, useful in community building. Because also there's a need for progressive or left politics back in rural towns, additionally in the cities that we're kind of living in. So that's a little of where I am.
I gotcha. Yeah, I mean, like, it's the kind of thing where, like, yeah, the world's gonna continue to be shitty unless people actually do something about it, right? Like, I don't know, like, if we had just thrown up our hands and been like, well, feudalism's the best we can do, guys. Sorry, monarchy's here to stay. Let them eat cake. Yeah, let's all go eat sawdust, and it'll be fine. We'll just do the best we can. I'm sorry, but that's not gonna fly when millions of people are homeless and starving and desperate, and things need to change. The material conditions, when they're right, lead to revolution. Whether or not that revolution goes in a good direction, that's why we're out here trying to lay the groundwork for something better.
So Eucharist, hi. We hadn't met
Hi,
before.
how's it going?
Yeah, good. I think have you ever told people, may I ask a clarifying question, Prime? I'm hijacking the conversation.
Please, absolutely.
Do you at all like fall in the political spectrum somewhere? If so, where are you?
Yeah, I mean, I call myself conservative, but I'm repulsed by Republicans, so it's a complex issue. I don't like the American political left-right spectrum. I don't think it works very well.
Okay.
I don't think it describes me well, but
that's a little of what Spectre talked to me about. I guess like you've known one another or something like this.
Yep.
What do you think for like people who want to like have a small business, or people who are laborers, or people who like, how do you see them surviving against the growing cost of living?
I honestly I don't know in one sense, because it's partially like policy questions that I'm not qualified to answer and I don't really understand. But like you've been talking about, right? Something that is, I think, and I've mentioned this before on this panel, it's a conversation that the right needs to have, that I think the right is having in certain sectors, is like, how do we address like these cost of living issues or cost of thriving issues that clearly we're not keeping up with in the jobs that we're working. Right. So Orrin Cass's American Compass Institute on the right has been working on this, doing some research and policy recommendations for things that could help. Again, that's a little bit outside of my wheelhouse. Right. But I mean, going back to what you were saying about, skill building and assessing like how we can make a living. I mean, I just recently read Shop Class's Soulcraft. I love it. I love the idea of trades and working. I mean, like before I decided to become a useless academic, I worked on a farm. I love that. I kind of wanted to do that again. I mean, like it's difficult to come up with a comprehensive way to solve a problem that I think we all agree has some like systemic components. And then it's also difficult not to fall into the trap of saying, this is just a you thing. You need to fix yourself or build more skills, and then you're going to, you get the bulwark against this terrible thing that's coming. So, but I also just don't know how to deal with like the rank pessimism that we were just talking about and dealing with. I don't know I don't know how to have a conversation about politics, whether local or national, if all we do is just say it's fucked from the start, and there's no good to be had here.
I mean, like this is kind of the point. Like either we're trying to do something through electoral politics, or we're not. And if we're not, then we're just kind of throwing our hands up and letting things foment until it like explodes one way or the other. And frankly, looking back at history, I would rather achieve things through electoral politics. It's a lot less bloody, a lot less people die, I just think it would be a better thing to do.
I mean, like, am I wildly optimistic that our like national electoral politics is going to have some sort of broad change? that's going to solve all these problems. No, I'm not very optimistic about that, but that's why I always like harp on local stuff, because this is where people like us can agree on some stuff. We can get together and we can actually change our city councils and our city policies, and that's where we get on the ground support for things like homelessness. That those are the things that we can really do in electoral politics. Yeah, okay, AOC and the squad and whatever. I can't do much here, and like us talking here doesn't do much there either. But like, man, locally, like my on the ground support for a candidate for city council can have a big difference, right?
Right. Like local politics have way more power over people's lives than they usually think they do. And I think that by building up local power, by organizing locally, we can move up to the point where we are affecting like state elections. We can work up to where we're affecting national elections. And I think that like as a long-term strategy, you know, it's a fine thing, but we're kind of at a point where the material conditions are going to be pushing people towards more radical solutions than they've previously considered. And I think that, I mean, I'm a socialist, so to me, I look at this as like, A, it's horrible, and B, it's a prime time to kind of like explain to people that, hey, here are the reasons why your life is falling apart right now, and here are some solutions.
Yeah. I had a conversation of years ago with this guy. He was a big socialist, like communist type, and we had previous talks, and he'd be talking about all the work he had done. He had done a lot of good work as like a nurse in like foreign countries. And he sees the changes that need to be made here. Like, I think if any of us had talked to him, we'd agree with most of what he was saying. But then he came to me one day, and he was like totally demoralized. I don't know why, but he was definitely totally demoralized, and saying that nothing's going to happen, nothing's going to change. And I gave him, hold on 1 second. Well, man, I didn't kick you out. What's going on? I'm gonna kick you out. All right. Anyway, well, man, can you hear us now?
Yes.
Yeah. What happened?
Apologies. My laptop died and the charger stopped working. And so, yeah, could you guys recap everything you said? Go ahead. I'll be.
We were being practical.
Yeah.
Practical.
Yeah. So we were basically I was basically recounting story against what you were saying, against this kind of nihilism that things can't change, right? Because I think if they can't change, first of all, I don't know what else is there to talk about. If we say that outside of a bloody revolution, right, or some sort of foreign intervention, that nothing is ever going to happen in this nation, then there's literally nothing to talk about, right? We'll just have to wait for that to happen. A friend of mine who had been quite demoralized, right, due to seeing what was happening within Congress, within the political landscape. This was a few years ago, before Trump. I said, nothing's going to change. Nothing absolutely is going to change. I remember sitting him down, giving this like, I thought it was a pretty damn good pep talk. I wish I had it recorded. About like how at least in the States here, we have all the tools we need to actually make the changes that we need to see in the world. Like it's completely within our power. We just have to have the will to actually do it, right? And I think maybe part of that, where that nihilism comes from some people. I don't want to put words in wild man's mouth, but for some people anyway, it's that like you see that American people are too comfortable, far too comfortable to rock the boat, right? They think they have too much to lose. At least they think they do, right? But not realize that they're losing those things at every minute. Going back to what Torian was talking about in terms of like the dollar slipping, how people's buying power has been going down, and their wages have not been increasing, right? But people have something, and they don't want to lose that, right? They're hanging on by their fingernails to what they have. and they don't want to give it up. But if they lose those things, right? If we have let's say a large collapse brought on by a pandemic, something crazy like that. If something like that happens, what changes then? Like if people have find out just how low they can go, right? Just how much worse things can be. Maybe that will inspire people to act. I don't know. I can't say for sure. But what I think, what I hope is that there can come a day where there is a certain set of elements that are happening within the world and within our politics that we can actually make a formidable change, right? But I know that won't happen if I give up. If we just all like lay down and say nothing's ever going to happen, right? It hasn't happened before, so it can't happen now, right? But so yeah, that's where I'll leave it.
I'm gonna come back in like a broken record, and I'm gonna try to maybe introduce like something different that is gonna be coming in. But I've been staring down how money works and how currencies work and so forth, and man, I need to figure out a way to make this like seem like it's going to be important to people. It sounds like to me that they are looking at doing away potentially with even, the dollar at the moment right now is maybe backed by debt. It's maybe backed by treasuries that the government sells when they deficit spend. It seems to be that the United States and a lot of countries around the world wants to go into a system where they can just issue credits to people and have credits be, money, but have the money be there without selling a treasury afterwards. And try to bear with me, everyone. I know that it probably doesn't seem like it's important. To me, this is going to be something that's going to be of a similar type of monetary system change from 1933 when FDR said you can't hold gold, and all kinds of assets and equities and everything went up in value against the actual paper notes. In 1971 when the dollar got off of gold, and then you had assets and houses and everything rise precipitously. I think that if they go that route, which it seems to be not even within like a 5-year time horizon, that they're going to be, a potential change with this. Any rich people that had paper money, that had United States dollars, is going to throw more of their money into real estate, into commercial real estate, into equities, into assets, into commodities. And I mean, it's just for any of us that have to sell ourselves and sell our labor, we're just falling behind drastically. And again, all I can say to people is evaluate our luxury consumptions at the moment right now. And I would rather have people ask me, okay, well, Turing, if you think the dollar is inflating, why do you want to hold the dollar? But what I'm going to say is, okay, to the people that I'm talking about, most of us probably have like a couple $100s in our bank account if we have anything. I would rather have 1,000 units of something that's inflating away than have a couple hundred units of something that's inflating away, regardless of if it's not like a great thing. I'll stop there, I guess, for now, but I'm the one that does, well, as I keep going, I keep trying to make sure that we worry also about like 5, 10, and 20 years down the road, in addition to just worrying about like how we're going to eat tomorrow. Not saying that it's as important, but the wealthy people in the United States, abroad, and around the world are setting themselves up for generational wealth for decades and generations to come. And luckily for me, I can have like a lot of people on this platform who do like amazing work on day-to-day needs and day-to-day thoughts for people. That way I can kind of have a space to go this route. Now I'll stop.
I think it's just as important to be thinking of the mid and long term, right? Like, I think this country lacks very much when it comes to long term planning. And if we did plan long term, I think we could have avoided a lot of the things that we're seeing now. Yeah, I definitely don't look at that as a distraction, as to like the dangers that might be coming our way. That's what I think a sane country would do, right? But we don't have one of those. Spectre, thank you for coming through, Spectre. Really appreciate you popping by once again, friend.
course. I am very sorry that I was late tonight, everybody. But yeah, sounds like we're talking about the free market not really working out, and people trying to like hoard wealth at the top or something, which is just shocking to me. If only somebody had like written books about this and warned us. Could really fit it in 3 volumes, honestly.
We were talking a lot about like American nihilism, as to like, can the system change? Can we like radical change, right? Can we actually do that like within the confines of our political system, or does it require something else, basically? And I was saying that within our political system, I think we do have the tools necessary. And Wildman, who's here, he's in the Discord. He had a different opinion. So, what do you think, Spectre? Do you think change is possible within our political system?
Well, I mean, of course, change is possible within the political system. Is it the kind of like systemic, broad changes that we actually need to fix the problem? I would honestly say no. Those have to come from outside of the system. Do I think that Americans are going to wake up and actually start organizing like that? I don't think that I'm as pessimistic as Wildman is on this, but I mean, yeah, I've kind of reached the point personally. I was having a conversation with somebody earlier. Like, I feel like I don't have good advice, because one of the things that annoys me about conservatives is that they tend to give individual solutions to prescriptive problems rather than giving systemic solutions. They give individual solutions to systemic problems. They don't give systemic solutions for systemic problems. What we're facing right now is a shit ton of systemic problems, and honestly, dude, I've got nothing for you but but individual solutions. Like, just try and insulate yourself from what is happening as much as you can. And if you don't have the capital to do that, I got fucking nothing for you, and it kills me.
So, question on that, because we've had this conversation like last week. I feel like we tread some of this ground with Brento Box, like the individual solutions. You know, whose fault really is it? That kind of stuff. So I guess it's a fine line for me to walk. I guess, being somebody who I would call myself on what I guess you guys would consider the right. I'm a conservative, but like I accept the reality of lots of systemic problems. And then also, you know, like Turian was just saying, like there are some individual solutions that are useful and you can practice and whatever. And so it's tough for me to like, we should talk about these and we can develop them and we can walk people through them, and you can actually improve your life if you do some of these things and develop some of these habits, without making it what so often becomes on the right, a kind of a blame game. Like if it's your fault that you're just not doing these cool things that I found that you can fix all your problems, right? Like so kind of, I don't know if you guys have good suggestions, Turing or Spectre, of just like, how do we straddle the line there of being like, yeah, actually there are some individual solutions here that might improve your life. It's not going to fix the problem, but here's the idea, you know?
I guess my thing is that
I'll try to jump in. I have something. Sorry, Spectre. Is that okay? Can I?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
You know, I've been on Twitch for a long time, and I've learned a lot. It's almost like 2 years that I've been doing like this kind of like streaming and stuff. And it feels that I've learned a decent amount about left politics or left movements or so forth, that now is the time to use like some of the networks that we've created and develop co-ops and show co-ops that can be successful, that can be sustainable, that can thrive. And then by using that type of, you know, building and community building, then be running in local offices where the co-ops are, you know, originated or started at. So I'm kind of thinking that it's time to take the conversations that we've had with a lot of us have been on Twitch for a long time, whether we're viewers, whether we're content creators or so forth. And I think that there are at least like ground networks that have been laid that can be thought out into small operations in order for people to begin to get together in like a communal setting or a community setting and go from there. I'll stop.
I expect you're going to say something.
Yeah, no, I agree with all of that. And I'll side note from what I was going to say a little bit to just say, like, I'm helping a member of my community, like, start up a co-op that does, like, custodial work right now. And what I'm discovering is there is no, like, clear set step A, step B, step C, step D guide on how to do this anywhere on the fucking internet. You have to start an LLC owned by one person, and then you have like a mess of bylaws that you have to put in to make sure that everything is actually distributed as though it was a co-op. So something like that, and having organizations that help people with that, would be amazing. Like Democracy at Work, Richard Wolff's organizations, they do a great job with some of this, but I don't feel like it's enough to just have like a replicatable model that some people can just like pull up a web page and be like, oh, this is how I do this. Because it's made intentionally complicated here. Like you can't just go and register as a co-op with the government. You're an LLC. That's the way that you have to do it. So it's just a mess of shit that is very unobtainable by the average working American, frankly.
Yeah.
Now, aside from that, what I was going to say to you, Chris, is like, when do you give individual solutions? When do you give systemic solutions? For me, this is simple. It's when you're talking with an individual about the individual's problems. At that point, it is appropriate to give the individual an individual solution. When you're having a conversation about a larger systemic problem, like it's like, for example, if I had a friend who showed up to job interviews dressed like I am right now and kept on bitching to me, like, hey, Spectre, I just can't get a job. I don't know what the fuck is going on. I'd be like, yeah, stop walking in like a fucking homeless stoner. And, maybe that would help you out a little bit there. Now, if I said in response to the unemployment crisis that we're facing right now, well, if you motherfuckers would just stop all dressing like homeless stoners, that comes off a little bit condescending, aloof, and not appropriate. So that's kind of how I go about that.
Like, I mean, like, as far as like individualized advice goes, like, if ever there was a time to play the game to like save your own skin, now's the time to do it. If you have the capital to invest in stocks, do so carefully, because again, the ground's probably going to fall out from under us pretty soon. If you're able to get together several friends to form a worker co-op, now would be the time to do that as well. Especially if you're like, you have a bunch of people from the restaurant industry who are looking for jobs, form a worker co-op and start like a food truck business, because food trucks can operate during COVID-19 restrictions. Like, get together, do whatever you got to do. Right now things are bad, but I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that they're gonna get worse before they get a lot better.
You, Chris?
Yeah, I don't know if I have a lot to say to that. Yeah, makes sense to me. I need to think more. I gotta think more.
Yeah, food truck co-op. Hell yeah.
Let's do it. Let's do it, guys.
Yeah, all of us here.
It's nice to take time to thank you, Chris. I do it often myself. It's a good place to be.
Yeah.
Well, man, we said a lot of stuff here. I'm not sure how much of it you actually caught, but you can respond to any of it if you'd like. Oh, man. Okay, well, you're muted right now if you're talking, just letting you know. Okay. So, and also I want to say something to make it clear that when I say within the political system, I actually do mean I'm actually including like strikes and like labor movements and all that, right? Like a popular uprising, because I think our system allows for that.
Does it?
And
striking, I mean, we have labor laws that make striking illegal under like certain situations. So I mean, yeah.
But I mean, the point is that I just meant anything that's not like a bloody revolution is what I meant, like within our political system, right?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
If we're including a general strike within the political system, I just want to retract what I said earlier. That could probably get us the change we needed.
Yeah. So, but I guess I'm not being clear on that. So, all right.
I do want to bring a book to attention. I haven't been able to read it yet, but I've seen some excerpts and I've seen some clips from the author. And I linked a different video to Jack the other night, the Yanis Varoufakis video that I linked you. But this is Can't Pay, Won't Pay, with the foreword by Astra Taylor. And Astra actually went on to Nomiki Konst's show sometime last week to talk about what the power of a debt strike or a debt union would be. And they actually created a debt union in order to try to organize people to eventually do debt strikes on, potentially like certain different industries, and kind of like realize that we have power in our debt as well. If we don't pay, they can't continue, to have their extractive businesses. And Yanis Varoufakis really talks about this in Another Now as well. But I think this is something that we also need to consider and be aware of and talk about, that there is a lot of power in withholding our payments to privatized water companies, to privatized electricity companies, and to some of these other privatized industries. So this is also another way to build solidarity. Not only does it have to be a general strike, but it can be a death strike too, I would say.
I love the idea of a death strike, but so okay, on this subject, on Sam Cedar's program, the Majority Report, someone called in. This was like this last week, I believe, and someone called in, asking about like what are the incentives for people of color, especially immigrants of color, to actually sign up on the things that you're talking about, for instance, touring news, in terms of a death strike, in terms of a general strike. This gets back to, I guess, what I've been saying before. It's like people, how some people are just trying to hold on to what they have, even though what they have may be meager, right? So these group of workers, they aren't privileged within our economic system. They have access to very little capital, very little political resources, and they are being asked, okay, with the very little that you have, why don't you go on and strike with us? Like, why don't you build this labor movement with us? And like the returns on this risk are very uncertain, extremely uncertain. It actually might be disastrous for you. And if your citizenship, if your immigration status is up in the air, well, then you might actually even lose your chance to be in this country. So, what is the incentive for them to actually do these things?
Can I steal the microphone again?
Sure.
Is that okay with everybody else?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that it feels to me that it's easier to talk to people about a debt strike because you still have money coming in. You can still put food on your table. You can still potentially keep, a roof over your head. But you're going to be striking against, like interest payments on your credit card loans, or like extra high, water and sewage bills and so forth. So to me, it actually feels that you can advocate into a lot of different scenarios, like reasons to withhold issuing your payments into exploitative payment extraction systems. The general strike is very difficult to coordinate because it needs to be so massive. It needs to be multi-industry. It needs to be sustained, and then you have a potential of scabs just coming in. You've got so many things that are going against it. However, if you could just get people to be like, nah, I'm not paying, I'm not like doing this for a while, it feels to me to be a little bit easier to begin maybe agitating with, and then going that route. Now, as far as like a general labor strike goes, it's really difficult because where are you going to get a big enough war chest in order to be able to keep people afloat as they're going to be having mortgages come due, as they're going to have rent come due, and so forth. So this is where I'm a little bit more wanting to build, this either rent striking power or credit card payment striking power or so forth. So that's a little where I am.
Yeah, I mean that all makes a lot more sense, and probably like an easier sell to a lot of people, because whereas with a normal strike, you're not getting paid, and so how are you going to live while you're not getting paid, versus a debt strike, just like or a rent strike. And I think honestly, I think rent strikes are probably the way into this, especially right now and in the near future. Like people are going to be on the verge of eviction. Neighbors know each other. They already have some amount of solidarity built up. And so it's easy. I think that might be an easier sell now, but going forward into the future, maybe debt strikes are going to be a more viable way of things after kind of the homeless problem gets hammered home.
But touring news, what is the function of debt?
Can you teach me, kind sir?
Well, suggest the line of questioning be, is it purely a commodity? It is not paying our debts or a debt strike really going to hurt the engine of capital very much. Are those banks really waiting for your $13.50 interest payments on your student loans each month?
Well, if they're
What
not,
if
Considering
you
that
go to
they
debt strike and you
built-
think
they
that's
don't
going
get
to
if they don't get it,
quantitatively eases all the debt away?
as you were.
Well,
I
that's
mean,
it. My point is,
I'm
is
not the
that
lefty here to talk about like what strikes are good for or whatever, but it seems like, yeah, I mean, no, my student loan company is not waiting for my little interest payment. It's not like that's gonna cripple them, but
Yeah, and if the
it's gonna
banks had
change
made-
my conditions if I stop paying my loans and keep that money instead. Like,
But if the banks had made all of their money off of the student loan industry, that'd be one thing. But they made the majority off of the mortgage industry, which is also another type of debt that you can definitely strike on. And yeah, they are gonna fucking feel that, I believe. But I mean, what do I know? I'm not an economist.
2008 was a pretty good lesson in how the banks felt that.
did they feel it in 2008?
They did feel it, and then the government bailed them out.
They felt it. 2008 injured capitalism.
Well, but people didn't strike.
I think it made it more robust than ever
Wait,
before.
I mean, nobody's saying that.
People
Nobody's saying that
were
the 2008 crisis
forcibly
was the equivalent
striking.
of a
Okay, what's the
strike.
difference between?
Like a market crash and the strike are not the same, right? So yeah, they felt it,
Payments.
and then we bailed them out.
Yeah.
If you were talking
Right,
while
so we
Wow, you're roboting all over the place.
bailed them out. What's up, Prime?
so if you were talking
I'm
about,
roboting. Well, you
yeah, we didn't
know
hear
what?
what you were saying. But you can respond, Jack.
I've had internet problems. Okay. I have internet problems. So unfortunately, I have internet problems. So don't worry about talking over me. I'll just adjust.
Sure.
You guys hear that?
Yeah.
We hear all.
My point is that the 2008 crisis. Okay, people unwillingly stopped making mortgage payments, and it didn't do anything
It
stranglehold on the economy. In fact, it bolstered them.
It did do something. It made it to where the government had to come in and bail the banks out. Do you think
Yeah,
that
the
the government
government
is going to come in
did-
and bail the banks out while people are collectively
Huh?
striking against the
Or-
banks? You have that's a ton of
wouldn't
political
they?
capital the government would need to go against the will of the people,
That's
like in their fucking
perfection.
face.
That's the government doesn't work
No. But the reason that
for the will of the
government was-
people.
no,
Why
let me-
wouldn't
let
they
me-
go against
hold
the
on,
will of the
let me
people?
finish, bro. Like, it's very simple. Like in 2008, the government bailed the banks out by telling the people, we have to bail the banks out or it's going to hurt you. If a bunch of people are refusing to pay their debts in order to hurt the banks, and the government turns around and bails them out, that is like going in the face of the will of the people. And they can try that, but you're going to have a lot more on your hands than a general strike after that, my dude.
Okay, one is widespread debt strike, so we're already talking in the
we can't hear a
hypotheticals.
thing
And then
you're
two, you
saying.
add to that ludicrous. Hold on.
All right.
I'm sure your retort is amazing, but you're roboting all over the place, and I can't even hear it, my guy. I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
But I'm sure that it's gonna just like BTFO me if I can hear it.
My guy, yeah, it's not that hard to fucking blow you the fuck out because you're a fucking imbecile. But let me just move over to my mobile.
Whoa.
Oh,
Right.
hey.
My guy,
Nice.
my guy, I'm sure your retort's brilliant. My guy,
We can't hear you. It's not a personal attack. We just can't hear you.
you're attacking the quality of my internet, my friend.
Yeah, go to mobile.
That's very personal to me.
All right,
Go
I'm
to
gonna
mobile,
take the
come back.
microphone back. Excuse me,
Yeah.
everybody. So, like the actual thing that a death strike could have done in 2008 or so is it could have made them evaluate potentially how they were going to bail things out, but you could have crashed derivatives markets further, or you could have like sunk balance sheets kind of further. I don't understand. Oh man, Wildman, if you're out there, I would love to hear what your some of your solutions going forward are. I think that you can organize locally. I think that you can develop co-ops. I think that you can try to run for city council and school council boards, school board, and so forth. I think you can try to organize into like a national debt strike. I think you can, if you strike against credit card debts on a big enough scale of people, can you eventually make the Fed, okay, let's talk about a way that the Fed can bail out the banks and bail out the people. Fed goes in, buys up all the outstanding credit card debt, deletes all the interest payments off of it, and then has people just pay the principal rather than paying interest payments. So if you get X million of people to go onto a credit card debt strike, and then you're not having the payments go to JP Morgan, to Citi, to all these like credit card industries, and then there has to become a bailout. Well, now you have people at the table saying, okay, well, I'm not paying, and then you also have banks saying, well, I'm not getting paid, and then the government has to do something that would be, I guess, like beneficial to both parties. What would be a benefit for both parties?
What up?
Keep going, Troy.
Well, yeah, but there are actual like viable paths forward in going down those withholding of payment strike options. It does force different classes or different businesses to be evaluated a little bit as to where is funding going to come from government into which sector.
How?
I'm not sure if we answered the question. It might be because I was paying attention to different things that I posed about what is the incentive of people who are downtrodden.
I'll go through it again because if you're in the bottom quartile of income in the country and you have $5,000 worth of credit card debt and you're paying a 19% interest on your credit card per month, but then there's a debt union out there of people that are going to get together to try to strike against the usurious interest rates on credit cards, and then you have 500,000 people withhold payment, and then 1 million, and then a couple million, and so forth. And then eventually, when things come to a head where they're trying to collect from you, they're having to get bailed out, you may be having to get bailed out, or so forth. Hopefully, there by enough people withholding their payments, then you can get your credit card balances written down from having to pay 19% interest on them, maybe to a couple percent interest on them. So I think it's one of the only ways that the downtrodden can actually strike back. They can't afford to withhold their labor. They will just be thrown out in the streets and die. But they can withhold their payment into certain debt systems.
I don't know how you. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh no, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. So I don't know how you. So basically, I'm saying I see what you're saying in terms like there are actually benefits, right, to doing this. But how do you get a person to sign up for that? Like, how do you, like, a person who is teetering at the edge, right? A person who is not, especially those who aren't even from this country, right? Who's very the very ability to stay in this country isn't even guaranteed, right? Who have something in their pocket, who are putting food on the table, even just barely, right? Putting food on the table right now. So then you're telling them rock the boat and possibly lose this employment. Rock the boat and possibly have our cruel immigration system come down on you, right? Rock the boat and lose literally everything you may have spent decades building, even though that's built on sand, right? So I like, yes, I see the advantages that you're pointing out, Turing, absolutely, right? Like, but I don't know how you tell a person, an immigrant, right? And there are many immigrants, especially out here, who could have use for a labor strike, right? For the power of organized labor.
I haven't been talking about a labor strike. Not once have
I. Or debt strike. Debt strike.
Not well, but they're very different, and I don't want them to become conflated because, like, you're not risking losing your employment via going a debt strike. I mean, in some way, maybe potentially, like they can tie it to your credit score, but go ahead.
So so what about the mortgage, right? So like, will that be a thing for a debt strike?
I think it's going to be difficult to convince people to do rent strike and mortgage strikes. Would I love to snap my fingers and make that happen? Yeah, I 100% would. Do I think that it's more possible to go through the credit card route due to ease of organizing of that one? Yeah, I think that that's like kind of why I would specifically focus on that one. Would I love to have everybody rent strike and mortgage strike? Yeah, but how can I guarantee and ensure the safety of millions of people by telling them, oh, hey, don't pay for that thing that like keeps the roof over your head? Like, I can't in good conscience advocate for something like that. However, you know, maybe if you do look into like a different route, maybe that one is a little bit safer, because like you're bringing up legitimate concerns, but damn it, like who else has, like, where else are you can get wins right now? Like okay, how else are we gonna like collectivize? How else are we gonna organize? How else are we gonna exert like any type of power? We're not strong enough to do the general labor strike. We're not really like strong enough to do some of these other like, you know, methods of action.
Yeah, I mean, I like the general response I have to the question is like, what other options do they have, right? Like, you continue living in a precarious situation that could fall out from under you at any second, and you're very well aware of that fact. So, or you go like, okay, this union, it will cover the late fees if I withhold this credit card payment. Okay, I'm down for that. I think that there is, you know, it in a sense, like, if there's no other way for you to fight back against this system, if there's no other way for you to try and improve your life at all, then I think people will be turning to these types of debt unions.
But I mean, that's it. You said what was the option? The option is what you stated, to just do what you've been doing, right? Like, you aren't starving, right? Like,
Yeah, but aren't you like aware of how close you are to starving? Right?
They might be, but but I think telling a person, and not like I'm saying again, I want people to be to organizing. I'm making my statement, my position is that, like, I want people to be doing these things to improve their lives. But I'm saying that for a person who has almost nothing, right, losing that almost and having nothing, I think there's a big difference there. They can recognize
for sure
that it's not so easy.
But I mean, like, initially, like, when people started unions, when people started organizing labor, right? Like, isn't it much the same situation of like, well, how did they do these things? And I think
but they withheld their labor, which virtually stopped capital. This is different. What's a debt strike going to do?
It stops capital in a different way.
Turing, how, bro? They don't need your money. They haven't they've been untethered
Right.
from spending
come up with an
for
idea.
a long time.
This is why you and I haven't talked in a long time. Come up with an idea or a solution.
I don't need to fucking play in your fantasy world, Turing. I don't need to come up with a solution.
So then, why did you come hang out?
To chill and have fun. I was invited to do it.
You've exceeded.
I get, like, I mean, I'm like skeptical. I
you
guess
guys are
as well.
not.
Like,
Yeah, you're skeptical.
Well, no, in the same sense, like I've talked about this before, like any like large scale movement, anything that's going to need something on the level of a massive strike or a massive revolution is so wildly impractical that I have difficulty imagining it. But like talking about the merits of it and why it might work and how we might convince people to do that, that's a legitimate conversation to have.
Okay,
but Wild Man, I just don't understand. Yeah, well, I think that's what we're trying to do. But Wild Man seems
let's do it. What is withholding your little pittance gonna do? Is it gonna bankrupt the banks? Like I said earlier, what I tried to convey earlier is that in 2008 we had something of the sort of a debt strike where a massive number of mortgage holders weren't making payments on their mortgages, and what happened?
Hey, yo, stop wasting everybody's time tonight.
Well, let's follow this line of logic. The federal government bailed out the banks. So what concessions were made of capital in that moment?
Because the pressure was
rise?
Nobody did in solidarity with them. The only people that didn't pay mortgages were the ones that couldn't pay it, and they all got kicked out. If people would have,
that was a lot of people.
Cool, man. But like, where are any of your thoughts or solutions or anything other? It's just, what the fuck? Like,
I don't have a solution. Why don't you go to ancient Rome and ask some fucking slave out in the fields what his solution to overthrowing the empire is? I don't have a solution to overthrowing the empire. That's ludicrous to even ask of me of it.
I'm just going to be muting you for the rest of tonight's talk.
Because you guys never want any pushback on your fantasy idea.
No, because you're not fucking putting anything forward. There is an ability.
I am. I'm trying to investigate the current conditions and what's reasonable and what's fantasy.
Well, I mean, like, it seems to me like you're kind of banking on this assumption that like it would be a pittance, right? But like, again, a pittance times several million people suddenly becomes relatively large number. That can affect some change.
Here's why. If the banks have cash flow problems, or if the banks all of a sudden have all this debt that they can't collect on, they'll just go to the fucking government and they'll print the money and then they'll be made whole.
In government?
No, not you. You
No?
don't elect them.
No?
No, you don't. Where do you live?
Wait, who elects them?
Not us.
But then who?
There
Who's
are,
voting?
there's certain momentum at play that
Uh-huh.
prevents any actual
wait, but who's
socialists
voting?
from getting into power.
But who's
I'm
voting?
gonna say all this
Who's
shit
voting? A fucking sliver of people,
Holy
mostly the
fuck.
geriatrics
All right.
and the ultra rich, are voting.
Thanks for what you said. People are asking me what are my solutions. I'm going to try to go through this again. Okay.
No, Turing, we don't want to hear this fucking thing. I'm talking right now.
No. Turing can speak. Turing
So you try to get 10 million people to agree that they're going to do a credit card strike. Okay. It's not everybody, but you are getting X amount to try to do it. And what is the end goal of it? Well, the end goal is to minimize the interest that was being charged on credit card debts before. So if you can get enough people to do a strike of a specific type in one sector of debt, and the government is going to have to go in and bail it out, hopefully they are going to give something small to the people that were doing the striking in the first place, because they're going to have to be working out a deal. Is it going to
That's a lot of
be
hope.
what? But it's an option, and it is something.
Why would they
to go through,
concede
and it's
anything
something
to you?
Because then if they don't, then more people will strike against it again.
Then what? Who cares, bro?
Oh,
I
okay.
think American.
All right,
They don't care. They don't care about that, Turing. They don't care.
Cool.
So all right. So
I hope we talk again 3 months from now and nothing changes. Also.
Well, what do you think? Think something's going to change in our lifetime?
I think American capital.
Yeah, maybe.
Wait,
American capital.
wait, do you think things are exactly the same now as they were like 60 years ago?
Do you think? No, I don't think things are exactly the same now as they were 60
Oh,
years
okay,
ago.
so
you
you're full
dullard.
of bullshit about things being exactly the same. Thank you for admitting
I'm
it.
saying that capital is going to have more of a stranglehold over your life and
Wait,
your
I thought
fucking
the
non-existent
devil.
future
I
children's
thought the
life.
devil and capital were like. I thought capital was just like an ephemeral thing that didn't exist, my dude. Now you're
didn't
making
say that.
appeals to
I said
capital.
it's I said it's a
controlling lives? Wow.
who's speaking right now?
It's Riverboat Jack.
Riverboat, I agreed with you when I said, indeed, capital is a disembodied force. It's very difficult to explain. I said it's akin to telling your parents about the devil. It involves the same sort of type of thinking where you have to imagine this abstract thing that exists. Just like the devil exists in my boomer-ass parents' mind, capital exists in our mind. It is real. Of course it's real. It's as real as anything.
Oh, well then that's great. That means we can affect it. Unlike the devil, which is
No, it
like
doesn't
an
mean we can
ambiguous
affect
idea.
it. What? It doesn't mean we can affect it. Look around
Wait,
you.
could
Look
we-
at the world
were we-
around you.
Were we not able to affect feudalism?
Oh, we didn't do that. That was not us.
Oh,
not you and me.
Wait, was it? Wait, is everything
What
I learned
class
about
of people-
history a lie? Did
What
history
class
not
of
happen?
people? What class of people overthrew feudalism?
All right, Wildman. If you
No, why
put
don't we
your
talk
critiques
about this? Because
forward,
you're making me out to sound like an imbecile.
Well, you kind of
As if I don't know
have been
anything, but
acting
what-
like that, yeah.
Oh, because I'm not being polite and because I'm not playing your little fucking
No, because
board
your
game
ideas are
here.
bad.
Your little Dungeons and Dragons campaign. I'm asking you,
Hey,
what
my
class
Dungeons
of
and
people
Dragons
overthrew?
campaigns are amazing.
I don't want to
Better-
hear your
better
quips.
than
Your jokes
nothing.
aren't funny. What group of people overthrew feudalism? Go.
It was
Name them.
capitalists.
Name the group. It was bourgeois because they had more power. They had an emerging power base.
Yeah.
They controlled factories. What do you control?
Labor.
Fucking Reddit upvotes. That's what you
labor and
control.
their commodities.
You don't control labor anymore. Period. There is no
So what do you
proletariat in the
control?
United
So what do you
States.
control? You control the debt, dumb fuck. That's why I'm trying to focus
no.
on the debt that actually everybody
you
has
could-
out there.
The little tiny U.S. dollars you're sending to the banks, bro, they control the U.S. dollar. Turing News, you know this. Debt strike,
Thank
they
you
don't
for
care
all
about
of the-
that.
Thank you for everything that you put forward.
Yeah,
tonight.
yeah. So I would say, in response to all of this, is that American capital relies on us doing the usual, on the status quo being the status quo, of people not challenging it, of people going to their jobs, performing their role, and not questioning the world as it is, right? There's that saying that it's easier to imagine the end of the world than the end of capitalism, and I think it's so very true, right? People cannot imagine a world outside of our current economic system, and all of this works for capital. And so when people start to break that routine, right, as Turing is suggesting, right, through a debt strike, right, or also a labor strike, but he didn't suggest that. But also through that, that's when the cracks of capital starts, right? They want to make you think that they have more control over you than they actually do, right? But to do this requires an incredible amount of risk. So I just
Cool.
like
Good luck to you. Thank you for having me on the show tonight. I've put forward my positions. I don't have anything else to add. I'll see you.
It was nice talking with you.
Yeah, man.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Have a good night, man.
all right. But to Girly Bear, we can't on invite onlys. We don't we don't mute people for that. Sorry. For invite onlys. Okay. So I guess we'll just move forward. Go ahead.
I guess I don't know how to move forward, right? Because like on the one hand we have this idea that capital as it exists is this thing that's doing its own thing, and we're all separate from it. We're not part of it. We can't change it. We can't influence it.
Wait,
so
who's
why the
saying
fuck
that?
are we even here? Well, I mean, well
saying
then,
that?
if that is what I'm getting from your position, so what I want from you, Wild Man, I guess I've never met you before. I think this could be a really fun conversation. I just want any sort of like positive explanation of what you think, right? Because all I'm hearing is like,
Why do you need that from me? Are you
Be-
so
be-
fragile in your day-to-day
No,
life that you
no.
need everyone
No.
telling you direct action gets the goods?
That's
Get
no,
straight
no,
now!
no,
Come on,
bro,
like
I'm
and
not-
share.
Oh man,
No.
let him speak, please.
Yeah, so Wild Man, I'm the odd man out usually on this panel. I'm a conservative. I'm not on the same stuff they're on, right? But all I'm getting from you is just like straight pessimism and no content, like no substantive ideas. Here it's just negativity, right? It's okay,
So
well, you
not
think that,
substantive ideas?
here's why that's dumb, and you think that, well, here's why that's dumb, and that's fine. There's a role for that, and I think that's very, very useful. But what I want is like some idea of where you're coming from, because what I just described you're reacting to, right? You're saying, oh, who's saying that? It sounds like you're saying that. So if you're not saying that, then make it clear that you're not saying that.
Okay.
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 What do you want me to say, bro?
Okay, so we're gonna move on from this topic because we're not making any fucking headway on this topic. All right.
What was even the topic? That strike?
Well,
doesn't
I mean,
matter.
What can we
of.
do? What
It
can we do?
literally
That was the topic?
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And again, sorry, Girly Bear. If you're listening, I did ignore your message. Thank you for the support. But you can save that mute for later during our walk-ons. I'll write it down that you paid. So thank you very much for the support. So I really appreciate
Who
it.
did she pay
All
to
right.
mute?
Who knows? I don't know.
You can't mute
Can't-
me. It's
can't
not a
tell.
walk-on. The rules don't apply.
Anyway, moving forward. So there was a story that I saw out of Texas. There is a high school that created a store, a student-run store, in which they it's like a grocery store, and they provide necessities and whatever, right, to students. Now the thing about this store is that you buy these items with points through a point system. How do you get points? By doing good deeds, right? The point of this store is that people who are disadvantaged, people who are poor, must do a certain number of good deeds, and somehow those good deeds translate into points. I don't know exactly what
the
equals
ratio?
what, right? The ratio here, I don't know. But by doing those good deeds, they can get food, they can get toilet paper, they can get necessities like that. And so this is, I think, an example of struggle porn, which we see often in our media, right? Of people surpassing adversity within our society, and then us congratulate them, giving them a pat on the back, rather than saying, why was that adversity there in the first place? Why were these people struggling? How can we change the system? So I don't think that, for instance, kids should be having to do good deeds, whatever these good deeds are, right? Whatever counts as a good deed, right? to be able to eat. Right, like I think that's like those are separate. I would like to encourage them to do good deeds. Right, I like to encourage everyone to do good deeds, but certainly not. Beyond that, there's also you'll see those stories like a classic one is, well, there's a guy, he's been like for 10 years has been walking like 13 miles to his job, right, back and forth, like no bus or anything to take him. So he's been walking back and forth for 13 years. And then we finally noticed, right, and someone buys him a car and it's like, well, what was this amazing story of like a triumph, right? Like he never missed a day, right, and never was late. Okay, sure. But why wasn't there public transportation within his area, right? Why is this guy being paid so little that he can't afford his own transportation, right? Like his own vehicle? Why is any of that? We ignore those parts, right? And we say, well, what a triumph. He's a damn good worker, right? In his place, doing it as he should be, right? No fucking excuses. You remember that, the rest of you. So I wanted to talk about struggle porn and just how fucking I guess I'm giving you my opinion on what I think of it. But here's what you all think.
I mean, like, I think there's no greater, like, example of that than, like, the fucking horror show that is GoFundMe now, right? Like, it's turned into, hey, who can market their horrible life story on GoFundMe the best? Market your social on social media. Market your tragedy better than everyone else, and maybe you too can get healthcare. Maybe you can even like be able to keep your house after you get your surgery. You know, and like it's like I think that's kind of like the epitome of feel good, like I guess struggle porn to me, because it's literally capitalizing it on this struggle in a way that like the worker who's like walking to work every day wasn't necessarily having to try and like sell that narrative, that story, in order to get a car to fix their problem, whereas people on GoFundMe have to like literally have like a marketing team to like pay their cancer bills, and that's pretty fucked up.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting topic, because I see people share this stuff all the time, right? It's like, I think it is, I don't know what y'all's experience is, but like coming from where Spectre and I are from, like people from my hometown share this stuff all the time. They're like, isn't it so cool that this person worked their ass off and then it finally paid off? Look at this. This is such a heartwarming story. I get so angry about it, right? It's just like, there's no concept of like what you're saying. Like, wasn't this a horrible thing that was going on? And isn't it shitty that it took so long for this to get fixed? And yeah, like the public transportation thing. Why is it this person has to walk 13 miles through the snow just to like get some food to not starve, like that sort of thing? Yeah, the GoFundMe thing I think is really interesting and connects to the broader healthcare issue, which is another thing that I fight about with my conservative friends all the time, and I've been having more and more conversations with my wife about. My wife is a nurse, and we're at like, and she's, you know, we both grew up like traditional Republican, Southern, etc. And we've both gotten to the point where we're just like, man, isn't it bonkers that all the people that we know who taught us what we think about politics, who we grew up with, think that the way things are is the only way that things could be? Isn't it ridiculous that most of us are one emergency away from bankruptcy? Isn't it ridiculous? My friend recently was in a motorcycle accident, lost a leg. His job, full-time job that he's working, doesn't have insurance, right? So I don't know how it works, right? We went through this a little while ago. We had some bills and some laws that happened with this, but so he has a GoFundMe, right, to pay for a prosthetic and to pay for his all of his hospital bills. Him and his dad both, they were involved in this crash, and it's like, like, isn't it bonkers that we live in this world where, yeah, I have to now sell my tragedy on GoFundMe to get to not to profit off of it, just so I don't go bankrupt over having an accident, right? That's just wild. And yeah, so yeah, the GoFundMe point I think is really interesting. We've just taken a whole system of like, we are one bad thing away from bankruptcy, but now I can sell my story on the internet and maybe not go bankrupt, and turn that into just a whole social media platform. It just blows my mind. I don't know. I don't have a solution to it. And I don't know what the solution is, other than like, I don't know, any other healthcare system that any other country in the world has. But, you know,
I'm going to be engaging in this struggle / adversity porn soon. because there is a person who's been on my panel before named Tylenol. His son apparently needs some sort of spinal surgery, and he's got to raise money. He's got to raise money to make that happen. And so my meager platform, such as it is, I tell them, yeah, come on and like let people know about your situation. And if you've got like some sort of a GoFundMe or whatever, right? I asked them, yeah, but if you got one of those, then yeah, let people know. And then you've got to do the dehumanizing thing of begging people to get the like basic necessities, right? Which is medical care, like urgent medical care. And I hope the people who are watching, right, when we get that GoFundMe set up, I hope you people who are watching actually do donate, because he does need the help. But what I want more than that is a system that recognizes the humanity of all of its citizens, right, and says that, yeah, we'll pay for your son's surgery. But that's not even a question, right? Of course it's going to happen, right? You don't worry about that. Instead, you be there for your little boy, right? You make sure that you can be the best father you can be during these trying times, right? But of course, money is not going to be an issue, right? Because you both deserve it. But we don't live in that country. Spectre, do you have something you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to disillusion somebody who thinks that like the heartwarming GoFundMe stories are awesome, just show them all the heart-touching GoFundMes that didn't meet their goal or get nearly close to their donation. GoFundMe is a popularity contest where the losers die and the winners get access to basic medicine. It's like the most dystopian thing that I think that like, well, that's a high bar. One of the most dystopian things that we've seen come out of late stage capitalism. I mean, shit, as far as like the struggle board is concerned, I think some of the most like egregious and offensive examples of this are people sharing things like, this guy walked 12 miles back and forth to his job for 1 year, and then his boss finally bought him a car. And it's like, why the fuck was this guy walking back and forth 12 miles to a job that didn't even give him enough money to buy a fucking car with?
Yeah.
Why are people actually struggling that hard? And then you read like, this boy saved up enough school lunch money to pay off everybody else's student lunch debt. It's like, holy shit, dude, just pay off their fucking debt, feed the kids, and give that kid his money back. What the actual fuck is wrong with you people? Like every other country, every other liberal democracy in the world seems to understand that you have to at least meet them basic needs if you're working class, because guess what? You at least need them alive to extract surplus value out of their labor. Like the Nordic countries seem to understand this. I do not understand why me, living in the country with the highest GDP in the world, cannot fucking get this. I'm not even talking about socialism. I'm talking about like basic efficient capitalism here. It's fucking insane to me. But yeah, struggle porn's cringe. The way that we take care of people in this country is cringe, and it pisses me off a lot.
Yeah, well, and on the popularity contest thing, like there's been some conversation in chat regarding the striking issue, debt striking, etc., and social capital and all this other stuff. Like there's been some conversation that I've seen about like how hard it is to mobilize people and convince them that this is what's important. And I think GoFundMe is a really great like case study of how that influences your life, right? So my friend, he's got a pretty good amount donated, right? Because he has a lot of friends and he has a lot of family and people who love him and people who are willing to share this stuff around on Facebook, who are generally like white, upper middle class, able to share this on Facebook, able to donate a decent amount of money, right? But somebody who goes through the exact same thing, who doesn't have those networks, who doesn't have those connections, they post it on Facebook, nothing happens, right? And then they go bankrupt or die. Like that's the reality we live in. And that's just horrible.
Like if you put this in a different context, it would be like one of the most laughable dystopian films ever, right? Like it would be like a background gag in like a dark comedy set in the future. Like compete in like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, except who wants to not have medical bills, and except it's so much worse in our reality because it's like GoFundMe's like I think at this point like a third of their business model is entirely based upon like healthcare solutions, and that's not even counting any of the other stuff that goes on like GoFundMe, like, hey, I need to keep my house, or hey, I need to keep my business open, or hey, I need to pay for my my dad's like cemetery bills because he died from COVID. Like it doesn't even count all of that shit, and like all of that's on there too. At this point, we've just created a game show around suffering. It's just taking place on social media.
I mean,
by the way, side note connected to that, the $600 they just sent you won't buy a fucking coffin for your grandfather who just died of COVID. So wrap your head around that really quick.
Quickly, one second. Chris. Thank you, Kino Elise. Holy crap for gifting 10 hot tier 1 gift subs to the community. Thank you everyone who got a gift sub, right? Thank you all for being here. Welcome to the Rush Generation, every single one of you. And thank you, Kino Elise, for that support. That support that we need to keep this channel going, to keep it growing. And I'll take this moment also to say, if you haven't followed me yet, please follow me. We have these type of conversations all the time, right? 6 days a week, bringing you fascinating guests. Sometimes we have contentious conversations. Sometimes we have pretty easygoing discussions. But one way or the other, we're always here. We're always trying to provide for you something interesting that you might like. So if that interests you at all, please give me a follow. Sub to the channel if you haven't currently subbed, and you weren't lucky enough to get a kind gift from Kino, at least a good friend. And also donate bits if you can. And we have a donation button below, a PayPal button. If you could use that, that would be fantastic to help us along. Thank you all so much. Okay, go ahead, Eucharist. And then I also want to hear from Wildman if he's still around.
Yeah, I mean, going back to some stuff we talked about earlier about co-ops and stuff, it's interesting to me that like these funding platforms, right, that to me seem like a great opportunity for people to organize collectively and like fund projects and ideas that improve people's lives, or like, like we can develop a product or an idea or an innovation outside of the typical corporate channels, or outside the typical like venture capitalist kind of investments that you need to pull something like that off. It's cool that people can go and talk to other random people and say, hey, I have this idea, we can all go in on this together in some way. And then how that gets co-opted so quickly into like, yeah, actually this is just a platform where we're struggling to survive, and can you help me out? It's just, I think, interesting. I like as a diagnostic tool, as like taking the pulse on the kind of economic
situation. I mean, how do you think that the founder of GoFundMe feels about the fact that his platform is literally just, and I repeat this because it's true, a popularity contest where the winners get basic health care and the losers die? Probably not great. Probably not the reason that he invented that platform. Here we are.
Yeah. How do you know
that? Wildman?
What can you say? It's a miserable situation, but people adopt the values of whatever system they happen to find themselves in, and it's no wonder that all these struggles are personalized. We live in the loneliest era of human history, one where we're utterly alone, totally atomized. So it makes sense that these things would be personalized, and that there would be no government support, community support for these things. Sad. What can you do? It's very sad.
Okay. Yeah, so I think that there are things that we can do, right? For instance, like when it comes to lack of transportation, and again, like we've seen this plenty of times. Like we can actually petition our government to add like new bus routes, right? Like that's the thing. That's a very achievable goal, I think, right? And it'll make a big difference in people's lives. It's something that we don't think about often, right? Something as simple as that. We saw how in Baltimore, right? This came to light during or national attention during the Freddie Gray incident that happened a few years back. When they were having those riots down in Baltimore, we saw those maps of Baltimore, right, showing how like a highway was like designed to like cut off an area of the city, right? And it was very difficult for people living outside this divide, right, to get into like the rest of the city where the jobs were. No surprise, I'm sure, I hope, that the people on the other side of the divide were disadvantaged African Americans, right? Those are their neighborhoods, right? That's where Freddie Gray lived. That's also, where there was no funding, right, to clean up houses that had lead poisoning, right? And apparently the house that Freddie Gray was in had that too. So like those things are quite achievable and make massive differences in people's lives, right? Simply having access, right? Access to go to work. Before we can't even do fucking labor strikes, right? With these people if they don't have labor, right? They're not actually selling their labor to individuals. It makes it so difficult. So those things like that, yeah, those are within our grasp. If we can make this happen, but we just have to have the political will to do so. Is what I would say. Do you all agree?
I mean, yeah. I mean, you can make anything happen in a political system if you get enough will to do it.
Yeah. To the just focusing on one issue, the transportation issue, right? Like, there is probably nothing easier to have a direct impact on politically in the world than getting a bus line added. If you get 10 people to show up to a city council meeting, you're the only people there. And if you're all yelling about the same thing and they realize that that's what matters to you and you can get in touch with the people who run this shit, like that changes very, very rapidly. Like that, like I live in Madison, Wisconsin. Like we have a pretty good transportation system, but there are parts of the city that are underserved, and it's not that hard to get petitions in, to get the things in place to serve those parts of the city. And so now we have bus lines that go out to the edges, right? There's not tons of riders, but that doesn't matter. They're not it's not like, oh, we'll only have one rider on this route, so it's not worth. No, they're just doing it, right? Because people petitioned for it, and now they're adding a bus rapid transit system that's going to serve even more of the underprivileged parts of the cities, right? That's something that you can affect with 10 or 20 of your friends that you can get together and get real hyped up about this issue and go to a couple city council meetings. You can change that, and you can materially change people's lives, give them access to jobs downtown, give them access to resources downtown that they didn't have before. It's incredible, right? Like that's the kind of stuff that I get really worked up about and passionate about, is like, yeah, we can do something about it in some cases on the local level, at least. Yeah, we're not changing the wheels of capitalism, but goodness, it's better that fewer people starve to death and that they have access to the resources that they need. Yeah.
Well, surely that's hyperbole, because I don't think you can actually take 10 people and go down to the city council and redirect the budget of the local transit authority.
And his town,
it's not a budget issue usually. It's a prioritization issue. Like it's really easy for the Metro Transit Authority in Wisconsin to say, yeah, actually we can tweak our schedules and we can tweak our routes and better serve people who don't have access, rather than just serving the people who already have access to transportation, and now it's just a convenience. That's a real easy thing to do. And I don't know if you've ever like just gone to city council meetings, but most of the time nobody comes to those things. And if you and 3 other people are all talking about the same thing, you are a political force for your city council, because nobody does shit at these local kind of things. Like a city like Madison might be different because we have a bunch of hippies like you guys who really care about this stuff, who come to the city council meetings and really like try to influence things. But like in most cities, you show up with a few other people, you're the only ones they've talked to from the public in a long time.
Yeah, and I mean, like Los Angeles obviously doesn't follow this rule, because Los Angeles City Council is all landlords who own like multiple properties, and that's where their interests lie. But like with small towns like Eucharist is talking about, yeah, absolutely. 10 people showing up to a city council meeting, that's going to make the people on the city council very uncomfortable at the very least.
What? Sorry, you disagreed, Wildman, with Eucharist's take?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit too hopeful. I don't think you can really have a considerable sway over the local transit authority or any number of people. You know, we have massive demonstrations in Chicago all the time for a number of issues. How many people were out in the Madison streets asking for the defunding of the police? The fuck, they didn't give a shit. Now something like BRT, that's an obvious home run for any DOT or transit authority head who doesn't have their head so far up their ass that they can't see how fucking easy it is to implement a BRT.
Oh, sorry, what's up BRT?
Bus rapid transit.
Sure.
I mean, basically what they're doing in Madison is they're running an east-west line out to the suburbs, out to some underserved areas, lower income areas as well, where there's dedicated lanes for buses. Buses have light priority, things that like it's going to half the time basically, like from a traditional bus system to get to the downtown area.
Sorry.
Well, I conceded that, right? I said that larger cities, like you're not going to be able to sway the city council because there's a lot of capital at play there. But in smaller cities like the one that Eucharist is talking about here, I mean, I don't have any personal experience with this, but yeah, other people have told me that you can definitely just show up to a city council meeting with a bunch of people and talk about the same thing and actually get some results. Like this isn't an alien concept to me if it's a smaller city.
And yeah, okay, so yeah, I think you're saying it's way too hopeful. Well, I guess most things that we've talked about have been too hopeful for you, but also I think you're right. It's not. I am. It is hyperbole, right? I'm making it sound easier than it is.
Is that what changed the bus coverage in Madison?
I mean, at least partially,
Department of Transportation head who made
at least partially it was people showing up and just advocating for this, and we've had lots of bus route changes recently like that, where it's been like, look, there's these routes overlap, and there's a lot of coverage to this area, and there's very little coverage to this area, and they bring people who live in those areas to say, I need this bus to make it to work. If I miss this one, I have to wait 45 minutes. I could lose my job, etc. Like there have been movements and pressure on the Metro Transit Authority, on the City Council in Madison that I think have affected service in some ways. So yeah, and it's tweaks, right? You're saying like, yeah, I'm not going to convince them to add a few $1 million to the budget.
Organizations' names?
What I would say from what I've seen, look, I've only been here for a few years, but from what I've seen, it's been like pretty organic local organization. Like I'm sure there are.
I don't know. It sounds to me like you're just making it up.
Okay, cool.
Just
That's fine.
Your ass.
Okay, cool. If you want to say that's fine, but like I can plug you into some neighborhood groups.
I really
if you
doubt
want to talk
that
to people.
an activist-led reorganization of the bus system in Madison happened.
What do you mean reorganization? I'm talking about
whatever
the
you
change.
said. You said okay.
Look, no, let me
look.
We're talking about something that could materially. We're talking about things that could materially change someone's life, right? Like having a regular active bus line or not.
True.
There have been additions to the bus lines in Madison. There have been tweaks of the service times in Madison that have served the more disadvantaged parts of the city.
Because of
as far as I can tell, yes, and like it's not just happening organically. It's not just the MTA just saying we're going to do it. It's people coming in and saying, hey, this is a problem. We need you to fix it. And here's examples of that problem. And here's the advocacy that we're doing. Yes. So, I don't have a study for this. So if you want to say I'm talking out my ass, you can. That's fine.
I think especially
what would a study say? A PDF?
So I think especially
not a matter of studies.
Where there isn't capital pushing on the other side, right? Like there isn't a vested interest in not having a bus line, right? Then I think there is definitely room for change, right? The room to make things happen. Now, when you're facing capital, it absolutely is much harder, right? Like money talks and it talks very loudly. But that doesn't mean that we can't accomplish things. We've done that like through our entire history. We've accomplished this, right? Like capital didn't want us to have weekends, right? Or us to be limited to a 40-hour weekday. And we fought against that, right? And we made progress.
We didn't petition city council with 10 people, but I mean, I understand your point.
Yeah, but like
I'm just saying that like it's just I feel like that explanation was just cobbled together just for the sake of having something to say.
I don't. Okay, well, I'll fight with you on that, but that's like, are you so pessimistic that you're saying we can't even have political influence on the level of our cities and towns?
No, I'm just saying I don't really trust like any of the narratives that you put forth because
fine. So you don't have to. That's fine.
I'm gonna assume Eucharist, who's been a fine guest, is operating in good faith. So I literally can't I verify anything that he has said, but I'm going to assume he's been operating in good faith. And I'll assume that of everyone here. Okay.
No, well, it's not a good faith thing. If somebody could show me that I'm wrong about how transit stuff has worked in Madison, I'm willing to flex on this. I'm just saying I'm using this as an example of I'm interpreting the things. How I'm interpreting the things that I have seen and the changes of the transit system since I've been in Madison the past few years. The advocacy that I've seen, the people in the local neighborhood Facebook groups I've seen who go to city council meetings who talk about this kind of stuff. Okay, so I'm interpreting that as having some real change. If somebody wants to try to prove to me that that's false, fine, okay. But my point ultimately is that we can have some influence on the local level, especially in things like transit that can have an impact on real people's lives. I think that's it. So if we want to quibble about the particular Madison thing, fine, we can fight about that. But I think I'm right about that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean the parameters you've just set are quite low, so you would be indeed correct in saying that you could have some influence on city council. Certainly, but
So
the
cool.
fact
So
that you're
cool.
not
So I'm
defending
pushing back
your
against the
anecdote.
pessimism here that says we can't really have any political influence, and I'm saying no. I think there are areas that we can, and that
But then you
incremental
made up
change
an
I think can work
example
out.
in order to sound
Okay,
like
so
knowledgeable.
no, I'm not going to assume that he simply made an example or anything like that. So
It's weird you
we
guys
are.
can't tell when someone's just lying to you and just making things up just to talk.
Bro, all right.
Oh man.
My
Anyway,
dude, we listened to you talk
We can
for
go
like
on. Let's move
20
on. I
minutes
mean, I
at the
got a lot of
beginning of
things to say.
this.
Yeah, no, I want to hear more what you have to say. You can accuse me
I
of
got nothing to
lying.
say
It doesn't
about this,
hurt my
man. I
feelings.
think it's just a bizarre group of people who come on these panels and just make up stuff about the Madison City Council and bust
oh,
record
these are
transit.
fantastic
Okay, fine.
people that come on my
Fine, dude.
panels.
That's
I
really okay.
appreciate
There's
every
some cool
single one, including
Some,
our
I'm
dear
sure, are
friend,
very fine people.
including our dear friend Joy News.
That's good.
But
Joey News is pretty based.
yes, I would agree. So I wanted to stay on this topic though and talk about like why this thing is so popular. It's a struggle point, this adversity point that we see in our media. What do you think about the American psyche? In fact, I'm actually very quite curious because I don't know whether you see this in other countries, right? When they have an actual social safety net, but in areas that, because not any country is perfect, right? But in areas that there is some sort of need, whether they do something like this, I'm very curious if we would find that. But here in America, we definitely love it. We absolutely love this, right? Showing that a worker is doing whatever he can to advance the goals of capital, right? Even at the cost of possibly their own health. So what about this captures the American imagination? Because there are people watching it who love this stuff, right?
Well, Prime, I'd say you might as well ask, why does the reclusive monk self-flagellate? Why does he withstand the pain of his own inflicted whippings on his back? It's belief. Belief is very powerful. You can never discount belief. And the fact of the matter is, the majority of Americans believe in some of the most heinous things about the world and about themselves. So they find justice and peace in the idea that some suffer, or even that they themselves might suffer. It's baked into them from a very young age to not only suffer, but to gleefully seek out the infliction of suffering on other people. We're a violent country, violent country, Prime. People kill, abuse, mutilate other people for fun. So I'm not surprised that there's no outrage, that there's no more popular condemnation of these rosy stories about someone's personal struggle and someone's personal perseverance being made out to be some type of moral good. I'm not surprised at all.
So you're saying it's a combination of sadism and masochism, right? Sadism from one part of the audience, masochism from the other.
Well, I don't know if people are getting off about this, but I do distinctly remember being a younger man during the beginning years of the invasion of Iraq and Afghanistan. I remember perfectly nice manager at the family restaurant I used to work at. Same family restaurant that'd sing you happy birthday, serve banana sundaes, banana splits, and a spare comment was thrown my way about the Middle East when something was in the news about some type of organized attack against U.S. troops, and he said, "Turn to me, we should just glass the Middle East." And as somebody who's always kind of been, a bleeding heart about all the suffering that the American military and American empire inflicts abroad, I was taken aback. I couldn't believe it. This guy's perfectly nice Christian man. We should glass the Middle East. And then if you look at the types of movies that Americans willingly watch, and you just see how saturated we are with violence. Look at the video games that Americans watch. and just how they just are gleeful recreations of extreme, abhorrent violence. This should not surprise any of us. Americans are sick,
Okay.
disturbed.
Well, I would say I would agree with you on at least on one point of being a
that?
bleeding heart about the suffering American imperialism inflicts upon the world. I think you and I maybe would have a lot of common ground there. And something I've talked about lots on this channel. But let's go to the others here and see what they have to say. Spectre, I'm not sure how much of that you caught, but we were talking about like why the, adversity porn is so popular within the American media. Like, why do people eat this up all the time? Do you have an idea? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, they love the bootstraps meme. They love to be told that it is totally possible to work your way back up from nothing and be successful. I mean, shit. I was like, it's still not been a year since I was sleeping out of a van, right? And I could sit here and like monologue about how like it was my hard work and grit and determination that got me out of that situation. But no, there were just two very nice private citizens who decided that they were going to let me crash on their couch for a little bit and get my shit together. Like, that was it. That's all that I fucking needed. And that's all that really anybody fucking needs. And that's the reality of how most people get out of these situations, is getting thrown a fucking bone. So when it happens, we like to be like, oh, look at the nice capitalist with all their money and how they're helping people out. Look at Jeff Bezos. He just started a daycare for Amazon employees. Not only did he start a daycare, he also started a homeless shelter for Amazon employees. Like, yeah, I mean, it's pretty bad. I think that people get off on the idea that the myth is real and that if you just work hard enough, that you're going to be successful, at the very least not fail. And that's just not true. It's like the amount of capital that you are able to amass and consume in this country has zero to do with how hard you work. There are single mothers living in downtown Los Angeles right now who bust their way back and forth to 3 different jobs to feed their 4 kids. They work hard and got shit to show for it. It's about proximity to power. And that's really all that it comes down to at the end of the day. And people don't like to accept that reality, so they look at this shit.
Rowboat? Sorry, not Rowboat. Riverboat.
Hey now.
Sorry, Steamboat. Yachts.
So yeah, I mean, it's part of the bootstraps narrative, obviously, but also I think it reinforces that meritocracy is real. Like, you know, that perception that if you work hard, you'll be recognized and you'll be the special one. You'll be, and like, you know, it's the same. Like, I'm sure that there are thousands of people who walk every day to work, an ungodly amount of miles, because they live outside of the zone to get bused to work, and you know, it's just that one person who got rewarded. But it doesn't matter because we don't know the stories about the thousands of other people who have to do that thing who never got rewarded. We just hear the story about the one, and then it makes other people feel good and reinforces this idea that, like, yeah, I mean, he worked hard and like he obviously deserved that break, you know, that new car. You know, obviously the same will be true for me. I just have to keep working hard, and someone someday will recognize my dedication and will lift me up to a higher station or better my situation in some way. And I think that it plays into that American exceptionalism. Like, Americans have the most skewed idea of the amount of economic mobility they have. And we have some of the lowest economic mobility in the developed world. And it plays into that narrative really, really nicely because it gives you an excuse for why, oh, that's why I'm not succeeding. I just haven't been picked yet, you know? And I think that maybe there's like some aspect of like sadomasochism going on there where like we like seeing people suffer to a greater extent than like other places in the world, but I'm not sure how much that like actively plays into it. Like there are other cultures where violence is a commonplace thing too. America's an imperialist war power, so like, yeah, it benefits us to have those narratives too. But I'm not sure how much that affects like the work narrative we've constructed for ourselves. But I'm willing to admit that might play a part.
Well, thank you for that, Rowboat. That should be my new pet name for you. Or maybe Canoe, you might prefer. We'll find something. But I think you're right about quite a few things there. The thought that that one, there is, for every person you see in one of these news stories, right? There are thousands, if not tens of thousands, if not possibly millions of others, right? Who are going through that same struggle and who will never receive that intention, right? But it's seeing that, right? Like, I think people know these intuitively. Like, there are other people who go through these things, right? But seeing that, okay, this person did the bootstraps meme, right? That they had succeeded, right? And then that means that this system doesn't need to change, right? That, yes, you can do that hard work. But what about the people who fall through the cracks, right? Who can't even go through accomplish half as much as this other person, right? What is to be said about them, right? Not even the ones who don't get attention. I'm talking about the ones who completely failed one or the other, right? Who completely maybe end up homeless, right? Maybe something else terrible may happen to them, like as the victims of capitalism, right? What is to be said about them? Well, those people are failures, right? Like, if this is a success, right? If this person engaging in some sort of grueling physical feats, right? Just to get to work, right? Just to do accomplish the basics of living here, right? If that person can do it, right? Then these other people who failed here, right? And maybe at tasks that are much simpler, right? Than 13 miles, like back and forth, right? Those people, well, you're a failure. Like, there's maybe something morally wrong with you. There's some sort of deficiency with you. And we can brush you aside because this guy did it. I mean, he had much more. He had a far higher mountain to climb, and he did it. What about you, right? Of course, me, myself, I've never had to climb a mountain like that at all. Really, things have worked out for myself, right? And all the struggles I face have been, designed by the meritocracy, and I've succeeded, right?
Yeah,
all on my own.
I'm sure that if I had to climb that mountain, I could.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'd have the grit to make this happen, right? But maybe not. One quick second. Sherry, I'm gonna say that like that. Sherry, very French. But anyway, thank you for subbing. That's really, really kind of you. Like, you've just showed up. Like, you just followed the other day. And you've already subbed to me. That's really, really kind of you. Thank you for the support. Welcome to the Worst Generation, Sherry. Okay. Eucharist. Yeah, what's your answer as to why this is a thing?
Yeah, some really good answers here. I go back to what Spectre said. The bootstrap meme, I think, is strong, right? There's a meme that I've seen shared a lot lately that's like, Joe Biden, I think we should slightly increase the taxes for people, for income over $400,000 a year. And then guy from my hometown who makes $35K a year, like, freaking out about it, right? I'm thinking about two books in particular that I think speak to this, like going back to what I do for a living, like Tocqueville's Democracy in America, his observations of just how American people think. You can have a lot of criticisms of it, but I think some of it carries forward to today. He talks about, like, look, the difference between us and maybe the UK or France at the time is we don't have, or France pre-revolutionary, is that we don't have a landed aristocracy, right? We have rich people, and we have this feeling that they're not all that different from me, that I could be like that someday. And so these stories of somebody who has great adversity and then gets some sort of success really speak to that, really, really, like, give me evidence for that feeling that I have, that I can pull myself up, I can be part of this upper class. And then there's a book that I don't know if you guys are familiar, but I in the circles that I run in, the like Christian conservative circles, people that I know, they all love Dave Ramsey. He's this Christian financial advisor guy. He has a talk show in Nashville, all sorts of crap. And he loves talking about this book called The Millionaire Next Door, where the authors basically just interview a bunch of millionaires about how they became rich, et cetera, and they develop metrics for assessing people's wealth versus their like how they should be accumulating wealth. So they have what they call under accumulators of wealth or prodigious accumulators of wealth. And one of the things that they find in that book is that of the millionaires that they interview, and they have a lot of selection issues, 80% of them are first generation rich. And that's something that Dave Ramsey likes to talk about a lot, and that people that I grew up with think is very, very cool, right? They look at that statistic, which has lots of, you know, selection issues, bad stuff, whatever, and they say, wow, 80% of millionaires are first generation rich. That means that I have a chance, even if I came from poor, blue collar, working class, whatever, to become a millionaire. I could be part of that upper echelon of whatever. So I think it's very much what Spectre was saying. It's bootstrap meme. It's like it's I really have this optimism that I can do something. I can put my life in such an arrangement that I can accumulate wealth to that point. And for some people that's true. Sure. Like you have a normal middle-class job, you're married with kids, you're making a decent amount of money, you don't have a ton of debt. Yeah. If you invest right, if you say blah, 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 these, like the things that Turing was talking about, yeah, you can accumulate some wealth. That's true. But it misses so much that all the things that we've been talking about. So.
And of course, we're not talking about those who came from a wealthy family that could have helped them out. Those millionaires, right? And I'm curious if they took people's race into account and all those things, right? Like, and all the various barriers.
Yeah, I mean, like one of the things that people like that I grew up with really fixate on this in the story that these authors tell is that of the rich people that they interviewed, most of them lived in traditionally working class or blue collar areas rather than like, rich gated communities or whatever. And so something that they derive from this, that Dave Ramsey derives from this, is like the people who are really rich are the people who are willing to basically just have the habits of a blue collar person while also having the financial habits that lead to financial prosperity. So like the long-term goals, et cetera, et cetera. There's lots of criticisms of the book, but it's something that I found that lots of people that I grew up with just love Dave Ramsey, and it's his whole story comes from this one book with so many issues. That's the whole story. Is like you too can get rid of your debt, and not just get rid of your debt, be wealthy. And here's how, and here's these anecdotes from first generation millionaires of how that can take place.
So I'm wondering if this struggle porn and adversity porn that we've been talking about is related to the other type of media porn that people really like, right? Is like the
porn?
Porn? Oh yeah,
Is that what we're gonna talk about?
Wait, that came up on another panel.
Yeah. Oh man.
Let's not talk about actual porn, because then me and Eucharist are going to start fighting. I don't want to do that tonight.
You'll see like the third world country starving children type meme, right? So you see that often, and this works, right? Like you want to raise money for some charity, put some kids on the screen who are emaciated, flies in their face, right? It's a time-honored practice here, right? To the point that it gives people a very distorted perception as to what these other countries are like, right? That like they're all just people like walking around emaciated, waiting for like charity to come through to help them out, right? And there are definitely some hard-hit places without a doubt, right? But and let's be honest, like the place that is the focus of this is Africa, right? It's often the focus. And so yes, people are starving there. There are definitely places to starve, but also there are places that are booming, that are growing, that are getting lots of capital investment. Assuming that's a good thing. But that's where businesses are being started, and people are raising their wealth, raising their status within the world, right? But like, I think there is a I think there is a market, right, for believing that this place, Africa, the country of Africa, of course, uh, is in such dire straits, and that like your $9.99 per month, right? Or whoever would hypothetically give to this, because you're not going to give to this, right? But that $9.99, that's making up for all this. Like all is right in the world once we have stepped in and done whatever this charity is doing. What do you
That
all?
makes sense. Prime, it's an indulgence. You can make this small, ultimately very trivial sacrifice, and you can extract some sort of moral pleasure from it. Just like the commercials are really quite entertaining, whether they're Flow from Progressives or the CGI Geico, or even if it's a horrid picture of an emaciated child. You think, how can anyone derive pleasure from this? Well, they do, because they gratify themselves by internally expressing even the smallest amount of sympathy. And then they can go even one step further and buy an indulgence where they're paying for a calendar, or they're paying for some type of postcard, $5 every month, or whatever the fee might be for the indulgence. And, it can be very satisfying. So I think you're spot on with a lot of the way you described it, Prime.
Anyone else?
I mean, like, I think it's a way to justify larger charitable initiatives. Like, you can have you have the small function, right, on TV to get people to call in and make donations and feel like they're part of making a place better and playing into the existing narratives about said place. For Africa, for example, like, a lot of people think like all of Africa is just like mud huts and like emaciated children and like refugee camps or whatever, but like, no, they're thriving metropolitan areas. There are areas that are as modern as some places in the United States. Some places are even better. Like, the infrastructure's newer. And so like what I think it does is it justifies the larger charitable initiatives, like stuff like the Bill Gates Foundation does. And a lot of people are like, wow, the Bill Gates Foundation, it's pouring billions of dollars into Africa. That's incredible. Like, what so much charity is going into Africa by these private donors. Aren't the capitalist class good for making all of these donations? Never really looking into it. And when you start looking into it, it's like, wait, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation actually invests in companies and then gets those companies to do their charity work on the ground in Africa, thereby making more money for themselves and actually makes a profit. And like, it turns into just another wheel of capitalism that's run via a non-profit that can be used to like dodge taxes and like essentially control where your money goes instead of actually paying it in taxes to the government that can then decide what to do with your money that would theoretically be used to benefit the rest of society. So
Okay.
that's
Eucharist?
I basically agree. I'm trying to take in a lot right now. There's a lot going on in chat and a lot going on in the conversation, but yeah, I mean, like, I don't have any strong quibbles or major things to contribute at this point, I guess.
No, by the way, chat, I don't expect Bill Gates to be on the ground himself helping, but just like it's not like the pure good charity effort. Like,
yeah.
it's furthering the aims of like Microsoft, just under a different banner. You
Okay,
know?
so actually,
I fully expect him to be on the ground helping. I want to see him out there putting those microchips in everybody's arm with that fucking vaccine, okay? Personally, himself, all right?
I want to see the microchips. Actually, okay, now let me. I guess I have a thought. It's It's not hard for me to say that like there are certain people who do better with their obscene wealth than others. And I feel like Bill Gates is somebody who probably does better than others, right? Like if we look at like actual lives impacted by the research he's done overseas, medicine stuff, blah blah blah. That's like kind of where his money's going. Sure, yeah, he's done better than most people do with excessive, obscene amounts of wealth, and that's fine. And I don't have a problem admitting that or saying that like. You know, if we want to put Bill Gates against Jeff Bezos is clearly the villain in the story, right? Like it's not a hard question. But then you get like something like the headlines that I saw last week of like Jeff Bezos's ex-wife gives away $4 billion. It's like, wow. And oh wait, no, she's still worth over $100 billion. So it's real like, you know, like let's have some perspective here, right? And that I don't know that I'm really contributing anything, but yeah, there are definitely people who do better, and like look, what I try to like beat into my conservative friends' heads is that like conservatives have always thought historically, Christians have always thought historically, the Spider-Man line of with great power comes great responsibility. You got a lot of money, you got to do a lot of good things with it. If you're not doing a lot of good things with it, then you are literally evil. So like, you know, I just try to beat that into their heads and let them use that as the metric to evaluate these super, super rich people that we're all talking about that they think are so great and really just, you know, got all their wealth because they were just, you know, 100 billion times better at doing capitalist things than I am, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, they're 100 times better at exploiting surplus labor out of their workers than you are. They're not actually better at like doing. They don't have like big brain business mind. Like Elon Musk isn't some kind of super genius. He just happens to have a lot of capital and knows how to like force it over other people's labor.
And going back to things we've talked about, Spectre, and things that we've talked about on this panel before, right? Is like in a lot of cases, it's not that they're better at doing capitalism than me. It's that actually they do it worse and they push competition out because of it, right? They lose money for an extended period of time. They can eat those costs and then they can swallow the other businesses and then they win because they sucked at capitalism for long enough.
Well, that's the thing.
It sounds like they're doing it correctly.
Yeah. That's the thing though, is that you believe like the Adam Smith version of capitalism, where we're actually trying to eliminate non-competitive practices, whereas I've accepted the reality, which is that everybody's trying to eliminate non-competitive. Like, sorry.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say I believe it. I would say that's if I
that's
like
what you were sold. That's what they say.
No. I mean, if you want to
trigger you says,
you know what I mean? Actually preserves the competitive situations, right? So I'm not denying that this is kind of the way it trends, right? Like I just pointed earlier, Capital by Thomas Piketty behind me. Like, yeah, this is a feature, not a bug of capitalism. This is the way that it works. But if we actually wanted to preserve a competitive environment, there are things that we could do.
Like enforcing the antitrust laws that we already have on the books. And
exactly. So like you said, right? They're doing the system right, but it's like, but it's hard for me to like break through that barrier that some people have of like, it's not that they're just better at business than other people. They are running a sucky business for long enough to undercut their competitors. That's what it is. Like, and that's where the libertarians, the Austrians, my friends who love free markets, there's a block in their brain somewhere where it's just like, they can't conceive of somebody succeeding by running a business badly, but they do all the time.
Also, from like the conservative Christian slant here, as far as I can tell with my readings of the New Testament, like there was a lot that Jesus said about like hoarding more excess wealth than you need. He didn't really mince his words. I believe that he said at one point, what was it? It is easier for a rich man to pass through the eye of a camel than it is
a camel through the eye of a needle than a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. Yep. He's very specific on this.
Yeah, he doesn't stutter.
They don't care about that.
Like,
no, we understand, but
it's
from the Christian angle, it's very easy to just be like, hey, these billionaires have more than they can ever spend or donate reasonably. Like, even if they are doing good things, you can't do enough good things with $1 billion to justify having that $1 billion. Like, right. I don't think that people conceptualize how much wealth we're talking about here. I put this in chat a few minutes ago in response to somebody, but like, A million seconds ago, it was still December 2020. A billion seconds ago, it was fucking 1989. Yeah. There are people in this country that have 100 of those in dollars. Yeah, like it is insane.
Yeah, I mean, like our brains are not made to calculate billions of anything. Our brains aren't made to calculate millions of anything. Like if I asked you to imagine a million of anything, you can't do it. But I would say
what are you guys talking about?
I would say that Prime. I think you bring this up in a lot of panels, but like how Bill Gates single-handedly, like through acts of charity, essentially manipulated the entire education system in the United States of America, and like fucked it up. And like these are what so many of the charity efforts are really about. Like so much of it winds up getting lost to like grift or misused in a way that sounds good in marketing, but in practice is actually not good at all for anyone involved. And it's, I don't know. I think the use of this misery porn to like advertise charity in particular is, I mean, it's definitely effective. I guess I'll give it that, but I think it's particularly insidious.
Yeah, agreed.
What else we got on the docket?
What we have probably the end of this particular panel. The stream is not ending. The stream is not ending. Oh God, the stream is not ending. We're gonna roll onto our walk-on panel, where audience members like you, yes, you can participate. So we're gonna replace this group of people with another amazing group of people. Hang on. But first, I want to thank all the people who showed up. Thank you for being here. Eucharist, shout yourself out.
Yeah, I do politics for a day job, so don't usually do politics on Twitch, but if you want to follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Eucharist, I usually play music. I play the ukulele for your entertainment and my fun, sometimes games with friends. My only other plug is on the conversation we were just having. If you guys are interested in Christian thought on economics, St. Basil's On Social Justice, great book. And my favorite line from it is where he says, literally, if you have two shirts and there's a human being who has no shirts, you are a thief. It's not that you're failing to be charitable. You are a thief. I love that. So everyone should read that. You can follow me on Twitch if you want. Have a good day.
Okay. Next, we'll go to Spectre. Spectre, thank you for helping me put this all together. Spectre was instrumental in making this all happen. Otherwise, we would not have. Spectre, thank you. Once again, tell the world about yourself.
Hey, I'm Spectre. I do panels like this, usually here. I've been planning on starting streaming myself for like the past 3 weeks, and then something happens. But my roommates are out of town. My cats are depressed and sleeping all the time, so hopefully that works out this week. We'll see. If it doesn't, I'm very sorry. Maybe you should follow me anyway if in the future I do ever decide to start actually streaming again and not just talking about it. I don't know. Yeah, if any of you are interested in like that A, B, C, D list on how to like get a co-op going that I said doesn't exist anywhere on the internet, I've gotten pretty good at like writing these bylaws out at this point, so I guess DM me about that. Otherwise, I'm really glad that Eucharist got a chance to pull out that St. Basil quote, because it's one of my favorite things. Thanks for having me as always, Prime. And guys, sub, like give Prime your primes. That's what it's for. Like it's in the name. Come on.
Oh yeah, and thank you. And thank you, King of William, for gifting those 5 hot tier 1 gift subs to the community. And to everyone who got one, welcome to Worst Generation. Thank you so much. That support keeps us going. I think you need to definitely sign up for the Spectre's channel here. His roommates are gone, right? His roommates are gone. And what does he think of? Not, maybe seducing a young woman and taking her back to his place. No, he thinks about streaming. He thinks about you, providing you content, right? Well, I guess he could actually do 2 things. No, never mind. Thank you for that.
Hey, what sort of content is he providing?
Anyway,
The means of production aren't the only things he'll be seizing.
Gonna jack off with his dick.
yes, thank you for that. Wildman, why don't we go to you? Wildman, thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
And providing your interesting flavor. A spice that we can only come to you for. Tell the world about yourself.
Nothing to say. Goodbye to everyone. It's nice talking to y'all. It's fun.
Okay.
I had a lot of fun tonight.
All right.
Delightful. Delightful evening. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, sure, no problem. Also, let's not forget touring news. Who's out there? Touring news. Thank you for coming on earlier. We would definitely always appreciate you having you. Hopefully, we can have you again in the future. Touring news. He runs a fantastic channel. You're gonna learn something if you go to his channel, unlike here, right? But over there, you'll actually learn something. Yeah, so I like him a lot. Please give him a follow. Last but certainly not least, we have Riverboat Jack. Riverboat Jack, thank you for joining us. Thank you for all your interesting takes. Tell the world about yourself.
I'm a socialist. I talk about lefty shit. I talk about making the world a better place, maybe marginally less awful. And yeah, come hang out. I stream every Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Central Time. I'm usually talking about worker co-ops or decommodification or all that fun shit.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Well, thank you all for being here. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, your passion, and yourselves, your time with my community. We very much appreciate it. We're gonna roll into our walk-on panel now. Any of you here are free to join. If not, that's okay. Appreciate you nonetheless. Have a good one.
Peace.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Oh boy.